Hello, everybody. Here we are at year's end. It's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year! And thank you for celebrating the new year with us here at This Week in Tech. It is our annual year-end look back at 2023. We've got some great clips for you from the year. Stay tuned. The best of TWiT is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 960 for New Year's Eve 2023, the year's best. This episode of This Week in Tech is brought to you by Discourse, the online home for your community. Discourse makes it easy to have meaningful conversations and collaborate anytime, anywhere. Visit discourse.org/twit to get 1 month free on all self-serve plans. Hello, everybody. Here we go. It's the best of 2023, and I love doing it for TWiT especially because every show on this one show that we do, every other show has regulars. This one show we do, This Week in Tech, our Sunday evening roundtable, always has different people. So there are a lot of different people on this, and it's really kind of fun to think about all the great folks we have on our shows. We'll start off. We talked a lot about AI in 2023, and there's some things AI does really, really well. Some things not so well. Christina Warren, Tim Stevens, and Harry McCracken and I talked about AI music from Google. There is a generative AI music already. It's not, I don't think it's quite there yet. This is a paper from Google Research. They call it MusicLM. It's based on large language model like Lambda, generating music from a text prompt.
Yep. Here
is the main soundtrack of, this is the prompt, the main soundtrack of an arcade game. It is fast-paced and upbeat. We didn't check my audio. Do you, I think we'll try it. Turn my audio on. I want to play this song. It's fast-paced and upbeat with a catchy electric guitar riff. The music is repetitive and easy to remember with unexpected sounds like cymbal crashes or drum rolls. Does this sound like an arcade game to you? Maybe the front screen, the attract mode, or maybe Sonic is running down the... That's completely AI generated.
Although apparently it's generated by an AI that does a fair amount of plagiarizing, which is why
it's
Google
totally
is not releasing to the public yet.
Totally plagiarized. Here's a slow-tempo bass and drums-led reggae song. Yeah, man. Everybody get together. We're going down to the beach. No. Ant says no to that one.
Seems like it has the potential to blow away the stock music industry pretty quickly.
But yeah, it's a lot better than the crap stock music we've been using.
And it won't be stock music. You'll be able to generate something unique to your own.
280,000 hours of real music is the training model to generate coherent songs for descriptions of significant complexity, as the creators put it. You want to feel like you're lost in space, Ant? Ant is becoming our taste tester. Let's see if Ant agrees. This is. Sounds like an AI did it, doesn't it? Sounds like robot music. Now, here's the question. Can we get taken down from YouTube for playing that?
You may get sued by a bot.
See, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think actually,
who owns
you're
that?
able to generate these unique things, right? Well, that's an interesting question, but also I think it becomes a very interesting question, which is, I think that this YouTube it relies on someone else being able to say, I have the copyright of this, and usually have like a file register someplace that their Content ID can go and find the same thing. But if it's a uniquely original file, then Content ID is not going to find it. So that's
what a world we live in.
That's cool.
What a world.
But do you think there might be some cool stuff that might happen if actual human musicians work with some of these tools to brainstorm and riff on ideas. And it seems like that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happening right now.
No, exactly. I mean, I think that the way that, and I know that a lot of creators are really freaked out by generative art and generative music and all this stuff. And I understand the fear. But for me, what excites me about this is that the best AI art that I've seen has been from actual artists. Like those are the people who've been using the best prompts or have been taken some of the prompts and have taken some of the results and have then made really great things. And I think with music, it's the exact same way, right? Like you might be able to get something that sounds slightly better than stock music, but it's still not going to be great, right? It's going to take a real artist to then take that and edit it and interpolate it and do what real artists have always done and turn it into something else. And so what I've been trying to tell people, because this isn't going away. This, whatever your feelings on this stuff is, it's not going away, and it's only going to become bigger. We can have conversations about ethics, and we should. We can have conversations about safety rails, and we should. But this is not going away. And so the conversation I've been having with people for the last year or so is like, embrace this as a tool to your arsenal to make new, unique, and better things, rather than looking at this as some sort of existential threat, because you're not going to outpace this. This is not going to be something that you can get away from, but it might be something that if you are able to use, you could actually enhance, the stuff that you do naturally. And that goes for writers as well.
Last week, Brianna Wu, who was on the show, her husband writes science fiction, among many other things, said that Frank was stuck with a story that I think he was writing for Analog, but he was stuck with a story, and he gave a very extensive prompt to ChatGPT, which wrote kind of a mediocre story, but came up with a lot of things that became a starting point for him and unstuck him. And that seems like that's a very good use of something like ChatGPT. I've heard so many descriptions. I love your name for it. What is it? GlibPT?
Glibbot, I guess.
Glibbot.
I didn't
like
remember
Glibbot.
I wrote that.
Yeah, that's good.
Like that.
Yeah, that's good. I've also heard it say the ultimate mansplainer because it's confidently wrong, right? And it says, and it's
so confident.
It's a little
so
patronizing.
confident.
It's like, oh no, let me explain to you how the world works.
Although if you tell it that it's wrong, then it gets really humble and
apologizes.
Apologizes at great length and says it'll never do it again.
Does it correct itself? If you correct it, does it stay corrected?
Yes, and in fact, if it says something that's correct and you tell it that it's wrong, it will apologize for that too.
All right, we got more coming up. In fact, more Google talk. In fact, we answer the question, what the heck is wrong with Google, with some of our panelists as we continue with our best of 2023. This episode brought to you by Gusto. Live with Gusto. Running a small business is just plain hard. Oh, you don't have to tell me that. Gusto lets you focus on the joy of running your business with its easy-to-use payroll software accessible online from anywhere. Gusto helps more than 300,000 businesses. 90% of their customers say switching to Gusto was easy. You get unlimited payroll for one monthly price. There are no hidden fees. You can have multiple schedules and rates. You can use direct deposit or even print your own checks. And it integrates with your favorite tools to make life easier. Tools like QuickBooks and Xero and Google and more. Plus, with Gusto, you can file and pay all federal, state, and local payroll taxes in all 50 states. No wonder 3 out of 4 customers say running payroll with Gusto is easy. It takes 10 minutes or less of their time. Wouldn't that be nice? Gusto cares about the small business owners they work with. And we know money can be tight right now, so you'll get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. Want to know more? Go to Gusto, Gusto, gusto.com/tech and start setting up your business today. TWiT listeners, you'll get 3 months free once you run your first payroll at gusto.com/tech. We welcome Gusto, brand new sponsor. It's great to have them. And thank you for supporting This Week in Tech. It seems to be a kind of a drumbeat on all of our shows. What the heck is going wrong at Google? We've got Ben Parr, Daniel Rubino, and Odocto and JJ Stone to talk about it next. Let's talk about this article. I mentioned Noam Bardeen, who a year or two ago wrote a goodbye to Google. He was the founder of Waze, said, this place, nobody wants to work here. The newest one Praveen Seshadri, sorry, got the name wrong, Seshadri, who joined Google because he had co-founded a company, AppSheet, which Google acquired. He also stayed 3 years and 1 day and has left Google, publishing a goodbye on Medium. The maze is in the mouse. What ails Google and how can it turn things around? I'll summarize because it's a long article, but essentially he says it's become a bureaucratic nightmare. Google has 175,000 plus capable and well-compensated employees who get very little done quarter over quarter, year over year. Like mice, they're trapped in a maze of approvals, launch processes, legal reviews, performance reviews, exec reviews, documents, meetings, bug reports, triage, OKRs, H1 plans followed by H2 plans, all-hands summits, and inevitable reorgs. The mice are regularly fed their cheese, promotions, bonuses, fancy food, fancier perks, and despite many wanting to experience personal satisfaction and impact from their work, the system trains them to quell these inappropriate desires and learn what it actually means to be googly, which is just don't rock the boat. His position, and I think is probably accurate, is that Google makes so much money from search, they don't want to take any risks anywhere else. And risk aversion, Ben, you're a startup guy. Is it a good thing for a startup to be risk adverse?
That's how you die if you're risk averse.
You can't do a startup if you're risk averse. You stay at Google.
You don't die if you can buy.
Yeah. But
it's actually, that is a good point, though, because Amy Hood, during, again, the investor call, when talking about Bing and their foray into search.
She's the CFO at Microsoft.
Yeah. And she said their advantage is the fact that they actually have not a lot of market share right now. She says, well, we can take big risks, and we're going to pivot and innovate very quickly because we can. And that's a really good point because, I mean, so Microsoft screws up a little bit in search. So,
right.
But if Google screws up in search, yeah, it's a big deal. It really affects the bottom line of the company because Google, for all intents and purposes, is an advertising company at its core.
So it's interesting because Seshadri he worked for years at Microsoft. And he says Microsoft, at the end of his article, Microsoft managed to turn things around, but it required exceptional leadership and good fortune.
Yeah, I feel like there's
absolutely. Yeah.
There's an undercurrent to that article, which, is probably that Microsoft really turned around when Satya Nadella came in. I think there's an undercurrent of what he's trying to say about Google and its current leadership. I will say that their founders of Google are more involved again, and that's been a story that's been coming up, and there's a reason for that. I think Google's going to go through a large transformation. What that exactly looks like, I don't know, but they have to in the current moment. Even with Meta and Zuckerberg, he's intending on making a bigger transformation. He's flattening the layers. He's telling a bunch of managers and directors that they need to become individual contributors or get out. He wants to not end up in the position where there's multiple layers and it's this article.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, basically that's what Seshadri says is it's not too late for Google, but it needs to transform. And I think the subtext is it's not going to happen under Sundar Pichai. He is a bureaucrat through and through, and that's not what you need at this time. You think Larry and Sergey, obviously they weren't risk adverse when they started Google. Do you think they can come back and whip it into shape? How long before they part company with Sundar Pichai?
So one thing that they could do, just before the smart guys get in, the one thing that they could do is charge $11.99 and give me a blue check on my Gmail. You guys have the floor. Say something smart. I took the glasses off, Ben, so it wasn't you talking.
Risk aversion. Green check anytime I'm on Google Meet.
Risk aversion is interesting. I mean, look at clearly Elon Musk is not risk averse, right? He's
oh Lord, no.
He loves taking a risk.
There is too much.
You could have too much risk. You could have too much risk.
But it depends on look, on size and stage, you're super big. It makes sense. You got to be a little bit more risk averse or risk a whole bunch of your money. And Google, has tried to launch other new things through the alphabet structure of other bets and all that. But none of those bets are super big yet. Maybe some people know Waymo. There's like the life sciences one.
But they've killed a lot of that, by the way. They fired almost everybody from the Area 120. They're slowly killing those bets because Ruth Porat, their CFO, is so risk averse that she's just killing anything that doesn't make money.
This will be the most consequential year for Google since its launch. And
I agree. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. How they handle it determines everything.
And they've already lost $100 billion just by being second-ish. So they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. But they better do something.
This is, I thought, the most interesting part of the article. The way I see it, Google has 4 core cultural problems. They're all the natural consequences of having a money-printing machine called ads that has kept growing relentlessly every year, hiding all other sins. And the sins he talks about are no mission, no urgency, delusions of exceptionalism. I've seen that so often in Silicon Valley where you go, hey, we're the kings, we're the top. I remember I had friends at Atari in the 80s who said, hey, we're the kings, right? We can't lose. And then finally, mismanagement. He says, unfortunately, this is not my first experience watching the gradual decay of a dominant empire. I lived through more than a decade, 1999 through 2011, at Microsoft as it slowly degraded and lost its way, right? Yet Google has a few strengths Microsoft didn't have as it tried to recover. It isn't a culture of ego and fiefdoms. That was the problem at Microsoft. Manu Cornett's famous picture of everybody shooting at each other.
Right.
The environment values introspection at Google. The stated core values of the company are rock solid, and there's still immense respect for Google in the external world. There is hope for Google. But don't wait too long. I like what you said, Ben. I think that's right on. This is the year, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It just is. We will see.
Yeah.
We'll be covering it.
Yeah.
I know, we should also not be too... I think Google can definitely recover from this. Like they're just like Microsoft, right? Microsoft definitely lived through this with, kind of bad leadership and just all sorts of internal problems. And they were able to turn it around. And I think, Google's not going to go anywhere. They may have a couple rough quarters and all that, but they got a lot of smart people still working there, and they'll be able to, but they got to get the right management in place. That's true. There was that other article a few months ago talking about how one of the issues were people were always creating new projects there, but then there was no support for that project going forward. And so you would get promotions for doing projects, but not promotions for having a successful product.
No incentive to maintain the successes.
Right.
So they just dwindle away.
They would watch it and move on. Yeah. And so this idea of Facebook, it's like you brought that up, like he doesn't want managers to be managing managers, which, I think a lot of people are on board. There shouldn't be like a shocking revelation to have in management, I feel like. But he was rewarded handsomely for that. Their stock went through the roof, even though their quarter was kind of okay, because he said, I'm just going to eliminate a lot of management. And, stockholders like to hear that because it's going to be, the year of optimization or something he said regarding their the way the companies could be run. But that's the smart thing. And Google probably needs to do something similar to that.
Do you think it's Sheryl Sandberg's departure that changed things at Facebook for Mark, that he now can flatten the structure? She was for so long really running the operation.
It was the market, I think. And I think maybe there's a factor to Sheryl, but really it's the market that forced it, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to put a lot of money into metaverse, but the metaverse side has barely been talked about since then. And he's like, I think Zuckerberg has heard what the market wants to hear, and is making those changes. And I think it's kind of like a founder reasserting more control and going into a little bit of wartime mode, which he needs after what's happened with like iOS changes, like really hitting the ad business and them trying to go and fix the core pieces. And then you can go and add other pieces on top. That's what's happening right now over there. And Google, they'll be fine. They have some of the smartest people on the planet. We shouldn't be talking about them as like they're like out of the fight. That's like not even close to what's happening. They brought like there's some crazy AI things that they can just pop out that will just blow people's minds. But there's like efficiency and speed and things that they will have to go and solve. And this year will tell, like, can they do that or not? And there could be a lot of changes as a result if they can't.
I do want to celebrate, though, a 50th anniversary. 50 years ago, the Xerox Alto, this story from IEEE Spectrum, we're still living in the Alto's world. It said the Alto transformed computing. Listen to the lead. I'm sitting in front of a computer looking at its graphical user interface with overlapping windows on a high-resolution screen. I interact with the computer by pointing and clicking with a mouse, typing on a keyboard. I'm using a word processor with the core features and functions of Word or Google Docs or LibreOffice's Writer, along with an email client that could be mistaken for a simplified version of Apple Mail or Outlook or Thunderbird. This computer runs other software written using object-oriented programming. Its networking capabilities can link me to other computers and high-quality laser printers. You're thinking, so what? My computer has all that too. But the computer he's sitting in front of is a 50-year-old, meticulously restored Xerox Alto at the Computer History Museum. It actually is running. That's pretty awesome.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, I have to laugh at this because when I was born in 1980. And when I was born, my grandfather gave, like, one of the things he bought for me as an investment was like shares of Xerox. And had this world gone in a very different direction,
it could have been worth something.
I would have been eaten by now, is what I'm saying.
Shouldn't have given you Apple. Yeah, we'd be eating you. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it did not turn out that way, and that's worth a few $100.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at that article, and you know what it makes me think of, Leo? It must have been about 40 years ago, like mid-'80s. I read in either Computer Currents or the San Francisco Examiner, there was an article by Dvorak, and he was describing the first Macintosh. And I remember there was some history about where it came from, Xerox and so on and so forth. But there was a quote from Dvorak where he said, "I don't see these taking off because it uses this thing they call a mouse, and I don't see anyone ever wanting to use a mouse."
You make 100 accurate predictions, you make one bad prediction. They all remember that. Yeah, he didn't like the mouse so much. He was wrong, obviously.
Like 40 years ago.
Yeah. Ooh. There's a famous book you should probably read. Maybe, do you still have those shares? Fumbling the Future, How Xerox Invented, Then Ignored the First Personal Computer.
I don't need to rub salt in those wounds, Leo.
The Alto, I think, was the thing that Steve Jobs saw in a tour of Xerox Park. He certainly saw, all of the concepts, the overlapping windows, the mice and stuff, and went back. He actually, it's according to folklore.org, which is Andy Hertzfeld's wonderful site about the early days of Apple, Steve misinterpreted something he saw. He thought he saw overlapping windows, and he went back to the Macintosh team, or I guess it was the Lisa team at the time, and said, "They can do it. We should be doing this." And it turned out that he misunderstood what he was seeing. In fact, they weren't doing it. But weirdly enough, the amazing, talented team, Andy Hertzfeld, Bill Atkinson, did create overlapping windows, even though Xerox didn't do it at the time. They did tiled windows. Mm-hmm. So sometimes misinterpreting the future is maybe even better.
Wasn't it just like a glitch, like a screen redraw? Didn't completely clear the screen or something?
Yeah, he came away with a completely wrong idea. So if you enjoy your GUI and your mouse and your laser printers, God, I remember
WYSIWYG editor.
Your WYSIWYG editor. You remember when the first laser writers came out from Apple? I think there were thousands of dollars. They're very expensive.
Those font cartridges. That's where the money was.
Those were really. So I remember a friend of mine, Tom Santos, who owned at the time a Macintosh or Apple store. It wasn't a Macintosh store in San Francisco. Mac Adam. I guess it was a Mac store. Mac Adam had a van with a laser writer in it and would drive around and do portable desktop publishing. He would come to you and you'd say, "I want my newsletter to have 3 fonts." He could do it all.
What was the speed on Apple Talk? The Apple Talk?
I don't know.
It was very slow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I think the thing that's interesting is that Apple was doing something that wasn't in the mainstream of computing at the time. And so as a result, a lot of the things Apple were doing, it wasn't so much like this is the future. It was like this is like the Amiga. This is over in a corner somewhere. because the PC came out, that was mainstream computing. But I think over time, Apple has kind of shifted the Overton window.
Yeah. Well, hugely influential. Obviously, you look at Windows 95 and hard to say that the cues were not taken from the Macintosh. But these things always inform each other, right? Like they go back and forth. Yeah. Everybody sort of learns from what everybody else is doing, and they drive the state. Today, if you look at the stuff today, despite, I'm a Mac user, I've been a Mac user for 35 years. I've used Windows. I've supported Windows in my previous career as an IT guy. When you get down to it, the details between the two are pretty small in terms of I could go use a Windows computer. I'm not going to have a problem with it. Like these days, the lingua franca is all pretty universal, and it's just the implementation details.
I think that's absolutely
It's not a
true.
religion. It really isn't.
Yeah.
By the way, P Holder in the Discord has told me that the speed of Apple Talk was 230.4 kilobits, which is actually a lot faster than I thought it was. I thought it was
faster.
Yeah, down in the 60 or so. But all right.
But you could trust P Holder. He knows his stuff. He knows it. He knows his stuff. A lot of people thought that Jobs stole what he saw at Park and made the Macintosh or the Lisa happen. But I think it's now understood that they licensed it, right? It was okay. They didn't steal it. But they had some good ideas. And thank goodness, because Xerox never did capitalize on the Alto. But here we are 50 years later on the 50th anniversary of the machine that changed everything. Aren't you glad we're not still sitting at a green screen with a blinking cursor on the command line?
I don't know. It had a charm.
I kind of do it sometimes. I still work in terminal.
Yeah. Oh, I love Emacs, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. Yeah, but we're
Mary Jo Foley writes all her articles on Notepad.
We're very retro people. We're very retro, All right, now we'll take that break that I was promising you. No need to fear. We have more to come in just a little bit with our wonderful panel. Lou MM from This Week in Enterprise Tech is here in studio with his VM machine. You didn't have to make a VM machine glow or anything. It could have just been a box.
You got to have it glow.
All right. Okay. Dan Morin, science fiction author, also here. And from the Vatican, Father Robert Balasaire, digital Jesuit. What is that?
This is a Nabis tag, which is a company that's long gone out of business, but it's the year of the rabbit. So I'm repurposing it.
The ears would move like it's in some informational way, or they would dance, or
so you could link your Nabis tag to the Nabis tag of a significant other, and like when you move the ear on yours, it moves the ear on that one.
Who's moving the ear on the other one? Is it just...
the other one is in Pope Francis's room.
Okay, there we go. A little wave, hello,
just saying hi
from the Holy Father. Earlier today on Ask the Tech Guys, I likened the Silicon Valley Bank debacle to a game of Jenga, where the FDIC, the Fed, have pulled out one little piece of wood, but now the whole tower is kind of swaying, and we're waiting to see what happens next. Both of you have written about it. Stephen, we'll start with your story. The ugly lessons of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. One of the stories that came out, I think today, is that there have been intimations that they were taking too much risk for years, that they've even been under investigation for some time now. What do we learn? What have we learned from this? And is this going to be a problem going forward? Credit Suisse now is kind of shaking.
Right. Well, we learned a few things, and none of them, as my headline flex, are pretty. One thing that struck me was how the bank really operated as a sort of a cheerleader for the whole ecosystem of founders and funding, and they threw parties. They had a lot of clients in the wine industry, so they would sort of cross-pollinate, those with the tech people and share the great vintage wines with them. And you go into their offices. They, some of the executives of the bank would have wine fridges, and and I mentioned saying, is this sort of behavior really what you want from your fiduciaries, right? When I think of a bank I want to trust, I think of like the guy who hired Mary Poppins, right?
A banker, yeah.
A banker,
with a
yes.
bowler and a tightly furled umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, "I know where everything is, and at 6:20, I'm going to come home and then going to be greeted, and that's sort of the boring kind of person you want in charge of your finances." So these people who say they embrace risk all the time, as it turns out, they weren't cognizant of this kind of risk. It was avoidable. Any idiot knows what the limit is in what you're insured about. And then when it happens, they sort of do a 180 from their normal point of view of saying, government stay out of it, and saying, hey, the government should now forget about this limit and, go from $250,000 to reimbursement to infinity, because otherwise our payrolls can be lost. Well, this is an industry that's laid off over 100,000 people, right? And the fate of those people is sort of shrugged off, and now all of a sudden, needing a payroll and having people not paid for a day or two is going to collapse the economy. So it's played sort of the insularity and hypocrisy, I guess, of the Valley, and their rush to really create a bank run from this place where they loyally supported for a number of years, showed that this one for all for one community really fell apart when the bullets started flying.
Yeah. But you would agree that the Fed and the FDIC did the right thing to backstop all those deposits, or no?
Well, I'm not sure. I think that maybe there was a way to do that where they could have maybe had a much higher limit, or said at a certain point that all your deposits aren't guaranteed for this day. But meantime, by then, things had gotten to the point where, they were saying, well, the whole economy is at risk if people, deposits aren't going to be protected. And the fact is, you talk about hallucinations in GPT-4, the whole monetary system is kind of a hallucination. That, everyone sort of accepts the fact that if nothing happens, if people don't pull out their money right away, banks are okay. But the fact is that, if things could turn on a dime, and we could be facing giant problems in the economy because we all of a sudden we abandon our shared agreement not to pull out money from the bank.
Right. Alex, your article talks about, and you mentioned this earlier, the over-financialization of tech and yes, the SVB backlash. What do you mean? What's that all about?
Well, look, one of the things that I saw that really sort of made my antennas go up was that there was, the public largely supported the bailout, but there was a loud enough and big enough chunk of the public who were willing to let the bank fail that it was worth examining who they were and why, and what has happened to tech, that it began as this underdog industry, one that, was there fighting the establishment, one that you could root for, that was fun, that everyone would support, basically, unless you were like the establishment, would support, keeping vibrant and keeping healthy. And why would anyone then say that, okay, well, we should have these companies fail? They're just, rich bastards anyway.
But that's what's happened. But look at Elon Musk as a perfect example.
Right.
The transition from, the Stark Industries genius transforming by being a rebel, by being one of the crazy ones, the people who think different, changing the world, making the world a better place, to just another batshit crazy billionaire.
Right. So look, I think that it goes beyond Elon, though, and this is the point that I was making in the story, and we talked about it on the show also, is that tech has been, like much of the economy, over-financialized, right? Which is that it has in some, not everyone, of course, but some companies have just tried to squeeze every ounce of money onto the balance sheet, no matter, not really paying attention to the cost. One example, which we know, is that DoorDash, right, would take tips that would get for Dashers and then count that towards its minimum payment to the Dashers. So they would never see the tip. And I have to say that, like, when you do when you do that stuff, there is a downstream risk. People are going to see it eventually. And I think you started to see it when, everybody, in the US at least, knows an Amazon worker, knows a Dasher, knows an Uber driver, right? And when that squeezing happens, there's a political cost to it, which you end up having people who are saying, okay, like, let the bastards fail. And, they don't care, like, necessarily, and this was the text argument, right? Your money's not going to go to DoorDashers. But what they're saying is, well, the whole DoorDash system is corrupt. Now, DoorDash, of course, has fixed that, right? After some press attention.
Because they got caught.
Yeah. But exactly. It exists all over.
Right.
And I think that, for those of us who root for tech, I root for tech to be a strong industry. But what people want from tech is that it provides all this benefit it can provide through computing, through technology, in a way that isn't needlessly extractive. And the fact that some cordons of the industry have become needlessly extractive has cost so much political will that there was a very vocal group of folks who said, let it fail. And in fact, when it was coming into the White House, right, with discussions of, like, when this thing should be bailed out, it took the whole weekend before Biden eventually gave in.
He was aware, I'm sure, of the political backlash of course, bailing out.
Billionaire bailout.
Yeah.
That was what he was worried about. And it doesn't have to be that way, because at its best, tech is for the little person. And that's all the whole thing. And I talked in my story a little bit about New York Tech Meetup. I don't know if either of you have been there, but it was this amazing meetup. It still goes on to some extent. But at its height in the early 2010s, we would have local startups come in and just kind of show off what they built. And it was right after the financial crisis. So you started to have some people from Wall Street seep in to try to get second careers inside tech. And whenever you spoke about your finances, your VC fundings, the whole place would boo and people would shout, get to the demo, right? And that's sort of what I think, going back to that spirit of get to the demo, show us the tech. Like, I think that's what we need to get back to in some ways.
To some degree, this is what happens in all industries, right? I mean, in the early days of oil, the wildcatters and the crazy guys digging oil wells and having gushers, and eventually it's successful. It monetizes. It's a bunch of fat cats with monocles and cigars. That's what happens with any successful industry, right? Stephen, I'm sorry.
For many years, the overwhelming narrative of tech was David versus Goliath. And then at a certain point in the past few years, it's changed. It's changed to the Icarus myth.
Too close to the sun.
Yeah,
its wings are melting. Isn't it so funny that big Silicon Valley bank collapse? It was such a big story at the time, and we forgot all about it. Thanks to Alex Kantrowitz of the Big Tech Podcast and Stephen Levy. That was great insight that they had into that. We'll have more in just a bit, but first a word from our sponsor. We love our sponsors. And this one I know very well because I use it. Discourse. It's the software that runs our twit.community forums. Discourse should be the online home for your community too. I looked at a lot of different choices, and I'm so happy I chose Discourse. For over a decade, Discourse has made it their mission to make the internet a better place for online communities. It certainly is for us. And of course, one of the things that was most important to me, Discourse is open source, and it's really well supported. It's trusted by more than 20,000 online communities, including some of the biggest companies in the world, as well as Twit. By harnessing the power of discussion, real-time chat, and AI, Discourse makes it easy to have meaningful conversations and collaborate with your community anytime, anywhere. I don't know about you, but for us, community is job one. If you're ready to create a community, visit discourse.org/twit. You'll get 1 month free on all self-serve plans, and it's great whether you're just starting to get going or you want to take your community to the next level, because they've got a plan for you. There's a basic plan, which is great for clubs, even for families. It's a private invite-only community. There's the standard plan if you want unlimited members and a public presence. There's a business plan for active customer support communities. And so many top brands use Discourse as their customer support community. It really works. One of the biggest advantages to creating your own community with Discourse, you own your own data. You'll always have access to all your conversation history. And of course, Discourse will never sell your data to advertisers. Discourse gives you everything you need all in one place. Make Discourse the online home for your community. We run our community at twit.community with just me and one other person. And it's great. It's easy to moderate, easy to run. I just love it. Visit discourse.org/twit. Get 1 month free on all self-serve plans. You got to do this. Discourse.org/twit. And we thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. I love Cory Doctorow. We love having him on. He is so smart. We had him talk a little bit about copyright. And he actually, he's an author. So he had a very unique point of view. We also talked to the great Georgia Dow, Ian Thompson, and Renee Ritchie. There's some good information in here. Another great clip from 2023. Publishers are working hard, now to put libraries out of existence. We talked last week.
Ancient archive.
Yeah, we talked last week about Internet Archive, which lost its case this week in a lower court ruling for what it calls cloud library distribution.
It's controlled digital
lending, CDL.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
CDL. Yeah.
So just a bit, let me make sure I understand what was happening. So the Internet Archive, which is the Wayback Machine, it's archive.org. It's really the library of the internet and a really valuable resource for everybody. In fact, they actually bought and housed themselves in a old library building in San Francisco near Golden Gate Park. It's just beautiful. So a church, actually. It's a church, but it's got columns. It looks like, I don't know, I imagine the Library of Alexandria must have looked like.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I guess it's a church. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they were taking books, often donated by libraries, old used books that the library was going to replace, and digitizing them, making ebooks out of the paper books, and then lending them out, and lending them out just as a library does, where it's like they have one copy and two people can't check out the same copy. So, and that's how libraries do it as well. But the publishers have sued. Now, are they suing over that, or was it the fact that they relaxed restrictions in COVID?
No, that's what they're suing over. It's not about the relaxed restrictions. I have to be really careful here because I work with Electronic Frontier Foundation and we are counsel for the archive. I want to be really clear that anything I say about this case is me speaking personally and not speaking on behalf of EFF. I'm a contractor to them, not an employee, but I'm still part of the organization. So, I mean, it's a very nuanced question about copyright law, but for me, there's this very bottom line idea, which is that libraries are really old. Libraries are not just older than copyright or publishing, they're older than books and paper, right? Libraries have been around since we had scrolls of papyrus. And they're older than commerce as we understand it. And the idea that we have made a technological change, not more profound than the technological changes we made when we went from papyrus to paper or scrolls to codexes, or, from books copied by scribes to books that were printed. That the idea that somehow digital is so profoundly different that we just say, okay, well, you can lend out books that are copied by monks, but you can't lend out books that are represented on hard drives because we are just in a new world. To me, that is, it's not just ghastly in terms of how it makes me feel about a future for my family as a writer and an artist, but also as someone who believes in public goods and access to human knowledge. I fear for it as someone who cares about books, because, one of the things about books is that they do have this kind of penumbra of antiquity and virtue, where if you're making a dumb student film and you want to show society's collapse, you just put a pile of books together and you set fire to them and people are like, oh yeah, it's like eating dogs or something. That's wrong. We know everything has gone wrong. And if you just convince people that books are just another widget, that they're like a Happy Meal toy, people might in fact take you at your word and stop buying books just so they can be surrounded by them, and stop giving people books as a way of showing them how special they are to them, and stop thinking about books in this kind of wonderful way that is such a source of revenue to writers and publishers. You know, if I have a healthier retirement, it'll be as much because of that as because of anything I ever wrote. And I really worry that you have this idea that we should just treat publishing like another business, like we could treat, you know, your puppy as just another source of protein. And you know, if we do that, I think the worst thing that could possibly happen is that we'd succeed.
Leah Holland of Fight for the Future said, in a chilling ruling, a lower court judge in New York has completely disregarded the traditional rights of libraries to own and preserve books in favor of maximizing the profits of big media conglomerates. And Tech Dirt, I think probably was Mike Masnick, wrote that this is really just a straw man. The publishers have wanted to get rid of libraries all along, and this case is just one step forward in their goal. Of course, the Internet
start a library today.
Yeah,
you couldn't start a library today. No way.
Yeah,
right. Like, you know, if libraries didn't exist and you tried to found one, they'd be like,
"We can't do that.
Shut up, commie.
You can't do that. Giving away books."
What commie came up with this idea? Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin.
What the hell was wrong with him? They will appeal. Internet Archive, Brewster Kahle will appeal, of course, and I imagine this is going to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, I don't have high hopes of the Supreme Court understanding the risks here. But maybe they would.
Yeah. I mean, the dirty secret about Ruth Bader Ginsburg is as good as she was on other issues. She wasn't good on copyright.
Yep.
You know, copyright's a weird issue that people split in a million ways on. And, you know, I think that, like, as much as there are elements of copyright that I depend on for my living, there's parts of it that are structured so badly that they actually get in the way, right? Like the fact that we have a copyright law that says that Amazon can put DRM in my books and then I can't authorize you to remove it is a problem with copyright.
Right.
And, you know, it's you know, when people say, don't you like copyright? You have to be really specific. Like, what part of copyright are you asking me about?
Well,
the parts that get me paid are great.
You've always been, and it's really great because you're an author, you make your living off of writing. You've always been very clear that you don't need that to make a good living off of writing, and that you're happy to offer your books through Creative Commons and even free downloads on your website.
I've done that too. But also, like, if you told me that my copyright would endure for my life in 50 years instead of my life in 90 years, I wouldn't write fewer books.
Right.
And, you know, I was just, in fact, negotiating a contract with someone to do some work with my work. And we had this question about whether certain uses would be reserved to them if I wanted to repurpose it in the future. And I said, like, this is fine, except that what we're ultimately talking about is that if I give my copyrights over to a library on my death, your grandchildren could sue that library over how it chooses to preserve it. Right? That is like, and that's a giant X factor that plays up in many ways, right? We had Stephen Joyce, the grandson of James Joyce, refusing to allow scholars to research Joyce's work because he didn't like how they characterized Joyce's work, and Joyce scholarship languished for years. You had Warner Music conjuring up fanciful stories out of the distant past to say that they own the lyrics to Happy Birthday, and shaking down restaurants and movies and all kinds of places if they tried to sing Happy Birthday in public. That's why when you go to like TGI Fridays, they had these weird birthday songs that like Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday. It was like they didn't want to pay Dane Geld to Warner's, right? So, you know, like there are lots of elements of this. You know, a little goes a long way, and we need to attend to the actual like distributional outcomes, right? When you tweak copyright in this way, who does it make richer and who does it make poorer? And I think a copyright that benefits artists is something I can get behind, but one that moves most of that benefit to, say, intermediaries like libraries or like publishers or distributors or digital platforms, I don't think that's serving any kind of artistic purpose. I think that's just rent seeking.
We've spoken a lot about Corey's fantastic blog post on insurtification, which is what I call it. This ties into that. I also want to send people to the website battleforlibraries.com. This is a site where you could sign a petition and find out more. And you really should find out more, because we want to, we want to save not just the Internet Archive, which, by the way, all by itself is well worth saving, but every library in America. So
I mean, I can't speak for the other participants, but I've got to say, I would not be in the career I'm in if it wasn't from our public library.
Yeah.
You know, I spent entire summers in there. When I took my wife back to the UK, we went to my old library just to smell the books and, enjoy the feeling. They're still running the same literacy courses that I took, which started me on the road to being a journalist. They're an incredibly important resource.
Yeah.
It's the last institution that in every town where you're valued because you're a person and not because you got something in your wallet. It's the last place.
Yeah. Well, you do have something in your wallet, your library card, but that's worth getting.
If you don't have one, they'll give you one.
They'll give you. They
so
give
you
it to
don't even
you.
have to have one.
Yeah, they give it to you. Right.
They'll put it in your wallet for you.
Corey's book is right now on Kickstarter. This would be a very good time to sign up for Red Team Blues, another audiobook that Amazon
comes out from Macmillan on the 25th. So
Nice.
I'll be touring the US, the UK, Canada, and Germany.
And I can see Brad Pitt as Marty Hench, forensic CPA.
Yeah,
it's the story of a man and his coin, Leo.
Easily,
a man and his coin.
A man and his coin. They're going to option this one, especially. This is the new James Bond. This is going to be. Albert Broccoli's going to be on the phone any day now. I can tell you right now.
But the other kind
thank
of bond,
you.
the financial bond.
I would settle for a lesser zucchini. I don't need the broccolis. It's fine.
I did want to talk about something, and Christina, I don't know, if you feel like this is something that you aren't able to discuss, or you are, of course, I totally understand, because this is about Security Copilot. Microsoft is working on sort of a GPT-4 powered assistant for cybersecurity, and I thought this was cool, given Microsoft seems to be in the same way. I think, of course, first and foremost of Apple, because I cover that company more than any other in a given week. And one of the things that I've seen Apple do, and Amazon has done this in a big way too, is sort of brand their artificial intelligence stuff, right? And so Siri is not just the virtual assistant at Apple. It is also the sort of AI mind that is paying attention to your behavior and then serving up different suggestions. They call those Siri suggestions. And we've seen now Microsoft, where at one point I think Cortana was seeming to be the big sort of overall umbrella brand for all of the different kinds of AI active suggestions it was making. Now it seems like Copilot is the brand. And so we've seen Copilot in GitHub. We've seen Copilot making its way into Office. And now there's a security Copilot. And this is specifically for security professionals. And I think, once again, this is kind of a fascinating concept, this idea that you will have a little angel sitting on your shoulder that is helping you as you're moving along and you are working on things, to provide some assistance, to provide even because of the fact that this virtual assistant or this virtual experience can kind of look at all aspects of your security posture and be able to look at all of those signals and pull that together and say, hey, it's looking like someone's trying to breach your system. Here's what you need to know about this. Once again, Alex, this is that augmentation of a human's ability that I think is a potentially very valuable tool, where the human ultimately has to make the choice of how to approach the issue, but to be able to have something that can take all of that data and sort of put it down into something that makes sense and look at potential trends for that data, I think is a really cool idea. And I like, Christina, that Microsoft does seem to be going, we have this partnership in place, and we have the technology, and then they're going, where all can we stick it? It's kind of a spaghetti project, but it seems to be working in a very positive way so far.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, and definitely does seem to be like, I think that is like the brand that we're going for a lot of things is definitely Copilot. And I work at GitHub. We were the ones who that was how that was chosen, but the Microsoft has started to use it. Microsoft 365 Copilot and Security Copilot and Dynamics Copilot and so X Copilot, which is great, and it follows the Microsoft tradition of taking a common word like Word and turning it into a product name. So I do like that, but no, but I think that this is the sort of area where when you have something that could be really complicated to explain things like security topics or to synthesize a lot of different information, I think this could be a really good use of AI. The one thing I would say is that, as with anything else, don't become just reliant on this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would never say to anybody, make this be the only thing you rely on for your security stuff. But I do feel like this could be a good way of helping synthesize a lot of information and point things out that people might otherwise miss.
Yeah, I think the branding points is very good because Microsoft has taken common words and turned them into brand names. It's also taken people's names and used them quite extensively as well. For example, the last CEO of Microsoft, big Friends fan, Chandler Bing, Bing search. Well-known fact. And by the way, I'm kidding, just to be clear. I think the branding point is actually good here because if you go back in time to Microsoft consumer products, remember SkyDrive?
Yeah.
Before it was OneDrive because of a copyright issue?
Before it was LiveDrive.
Oh, LiveDrive didn't last. That was terrible.
It was SkyDrive, LiveDrive, OneDrive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then everyone forgot because OneDrive was bleh. But I thought the Cortana name was super hype because it was a cool use of IP from the gaming world and bringing it into a consumer productivity perspective. However, Copilot, to the point about it being AI helping you as your buddy, actually, which is what Cortana was doing, but no one knew that in the video game franchise world. I think Copilot's freaking brilliant. I think it's really good. And this particular example, I think, is how AI is going to show up everywhere relatively quickly. And I think it's super cool. I obviously am not a cybersecurity professional. I don't have any perspective on using this, but in terms of where I think we're going to see this stuff show up, here, it's a great example of it and may make us all more secure because God knows we could use it.
I am going to ask. Oh, no, please, Abrar. And then I have a question for all of you.
I was going to say, all I want is for Outlook to be more usable. And so can I just search my email and find it? Like, that's all I want.
Real, right?
That's my only suggestion.
Yeah.
Outlook bad for you too? Yeah. So the question that I have for everyone, and prepare yourselves, everybody, but I'll start with Abrar. What Copilot do you wish you had right now? So in a world where you get to have someone make you a tech Copilot, where, and it can be for anything, where do you wish you had this AI Copilot helping you out day to day?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a really good question. Day to day. Well, I'll give a well, that's kind of boring.
It's
I was gonna say for like work. Like if it was for work, I would love to just like I would love to brainstorm story ideas with like, wouldn't that be fun? Just to kind of
have like a
and just like angles.
Yeah, a little rubber ducky. What is that? That's not the word. There's
the developer thing.
A sounding board. That's a thing. I think the term I'm looking for. Yeah.
Right.
Just, hey, this is an idea that I have. And then it's like, oh, that's a great idea. But have you thought about this? And it just sort of tweaks the idea a little bit. Yeah. That's a good Copilot.
That would be helpful.
Story Copilot. Christina, what's your Copilot?
Okay. So, I mean, I do actually use GitHub Copilot all the time. That is a plug, but it's really good. And I do use that with work a lot. And and we don't advertise that it works for pros, but it actually does work pretty well for pros. Although I mostly use it for creating demos. I would love a cleaning Copilot.
Oh, so is it like, oh no, I just got this, I squeezed a turnip and the juice landed on my pants and I need to know how to get the stain out.
But it would more be like, okay, I'm going to see the state of what rooms are right now, and I'm going to help you prioritize like an actual plan to get the most out of doing like your cleaning and like your laundry and other stuff. Like honestly, like I need like a Marie Kondo like sort of like Copilot.
Oh my God, yes, an organizational cleaning space. Oh my God, yes. Let's get on that for sure. And Alex, what's your Copilot?
I'm just blown away by how good the first two are because I would absolutely use both of them. For me, though, the thing that I've really long wanted and I'm hoping is going to be now possible is an OS level buddy. I want to be writing and then look at 18 tabs that I pulled up in my extra Chrome window to read later, and just be like, OS, can you just put those away into a file for me? I'm going to ask them for them back a little bit later on, but they're killing my RAM. And it would go, sure, Alex. And here's why I think this is not going to be possible, because ChatGPT can ingest natural language, and it can and do stuff, and it can make code. So why can't it take my words and then use Zapier or whatever and plug into applications, right?
Yeah.
And then just write code or send little magic bits through the tubes and then do stuff for me. And then it's smart enough that it should work most of the time, because my stuff that I need isn't complex. It's mostly just very basic stuff, but I'm very busy and I'm in a hurry. So that's what I want. But if I can't have that, I will take cleaning bot or story bot, to be clear, because those would be awesome.
Those are both great.
I love that, Alex. And honestly, you could also plug that into Obsidian or another one of those second brain apps and be like, okay, put all this stuff here, and but bring up that document that I was looking at last week that was talking about this.
Yeah,
I love that. And it could do it. You're exactly right. The technology is there. We just need to be able to have maybe localized trained models of just train it on everything that's on my computer.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, recently, and this works sometimes, but it didn't work this time. I looked at my phone and I hit the little power button to get Siri to pull up, and I was like, Siri, please play X by artist Y on Spotify, and it went working on it, and failed. And I'm like, Lord above, I remember when you bought Siri 15 years ago, and it still can't play a song.
Right.
So all that technology is trash. Just throw it away.
Yep.
And then just use GPT's ability to ingest and kick out text and have that double as code, and then do stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
Why doesn't that work now?
And also be able to play our Taylor Tunes playlist on Apple Music, which is my Apple Music playlist of every single Taylor Swift song and single from everything. So yeah.
Can I just say to the Swifties here, I love it when I pull up Spotify now and I'm playing the new album, and it says at the bottom, copyright, not Republic, not RCA, not Capitol Records. It says copyright Taylor Swift.
Our queen.
She does it.
Queen.
I am so happy for all of you. And I'm so happy for these ideas. My bot would be basically the wire cutter, but as an AI chatbot. So anytime I have a problem and I'm thinking about buying something, I ask it, and it's like, here is the one that you should probably get because it's good for your budget, but is also good enough to do this, and also has these two extra. It will take what the wire cutter knows, but also all the thousands of other sites out there, and use all of that together to recommend me the best thing for me specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
What it would say is, the best thing for your needs is X, but I checked your Citibank account and you can have Y.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like, this would be, you wish you could have this.
Exactly. Apple Pay later.
It's just going to shame you a lot and be like, if you considered increasing your income to afford better shoes.
It would literally go, what are those? I thank you for those of you who got that. I do wish that I could increase or decrease the personality of my AI in the same way that I can with Carrot Weather. So for those of you who have not used the Carrot Weather app, it's this weather app for iPhone and other devices, and you can it has these little responses that it gives, and you can make it more or less snarky. And I do like when it sort of says mean things. Okay, this is getting weird, but I like when it says mean things to me. And I kind of wish that I could get my AI bot to have a little bit more of a personality as well. So then in that case, it would say, don't buy those shoes. You don't need them.
You ever accidentally tell more about your personality than you meant to in the middle of the podcast?
Yeah, just then. I wish I had an AI bot that was like, whoa, slow down, Micah. What you're about to say is not for anyone to hear.
Yeah. It's like when you try to send a tweet with profanity and Twitter's like, people don't like these tweets that use these words.
Yeah. Please don't say this. It's just going to embarrass everyone, but especially you.
Can I just say, though, that all of this that we're talking about, I don't see why it isn't possible in the next 5 years. Christina would need cameras in her rooms to have ingest images and stuff. But the story bot would just want to read your past covers and say, well, you also talked about this, 6 months ago. Does that have any pertinence?
Right.
And I'll just call Micah and tell him no, and that'll be good enough. So,
I was going to say mine would be possible with, I think the only thing that it'd need to have is just a more recent database than September 2021. So if it had a more recent database than September 2021, I've pretty much already got mine, other than it doesn't have access to my banking information. But I honestly feel okay with that. So I would want it to do it based on everything but financial means, because I want to keep that to myself. So I think mine's possible in its current state. Alex, is yours possible?
So yeah, I don't know why it isn't. Because if it was, people would build it, I think, right?
No, I mean, I think the good idea is I think you probably have to do it at the OS level, right? But I definitely think there's, presumably somebody could build like an application that had full access to everything to do it. But I think you could, but I think it would be one of those things, like, because basically we're just talking about, like, on the Mac, for instance, we would just be kind of talking about like automator voice, right? Like, like something that they could, use natural language to pull up, the sorts of search things or to, run macros, that you're trying to accomplish. It definitely seems like it should be possible.
Yeah, but just add little hooks in every app, right? For the thing to talk and pull and put things back into.
That's what I'm saying, which AppleScript basically already has, at least on a Mac. That's what I'm saying. So basically it would just be kind of a way of like, making like AppleScript,
on the fly. Yeah.
On the fly with your voice.
And that's what I mean when I'm talking about those large language models is it's not just ingest, it's, well, I don't want to talk about what that outgest. We'll go with that. It's
egress.
Yeah, thank you. Egress. It is taking the translation of what you're saying in, and then it's also able to then go from that and also tell the other thing. It talks in their languages too. That's what I think makes this so incredible, and why what you're talking about seems entirely possible, because as long as it has the context of this is how I have to talk to the machine, luckily with Mac OS, we do have a lot of those hooks already built in. It's just no one is able to write every single kind of program they need to do to use the system. But if the AI could do that on the fly, then that would work. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Harry McCracken, the technologizer, wrote on technologizer.com about the end of computer magazines in America, because Maximum PC and Mac Life are both shipping their last print edition, moving to download, moving to digital. And he says, I'm not writing this article because the dead tree versions of Maximum PC and Mac Life are no more. I'm writing it because they were the last two extant U.S. computer magazines that had managed to cling to life until now. He says, with their abandonment of print, the computer magazine era has officially ended, and that just kind of makes me kind of sad. Computer Shopper.
I didn't realize they were still around.
Yeah, I'm not reading them, but
they were still printing. I thought, whoa, I was interested in the story. I was like, wow, they were actually still printing. I had no idea. That was
the only
people that care is our age group.
No, totally. Oh, no question. This is purely a nostalgia story that I put in there because it reminds me of being a kid and looking at that fat, like honking, issue of Computer Shopper that was just like hundreds of pages of storefronts with different, like spec, machines, and it was the whole thing.
I worked at the ancient history years ago, 2 decades ago. I worked at Copperfield's Books in Sebastopol and Petaluma. I would drive between those two stores.
Right on the corner.
At the time, I was in charge of magazines, and with all magazines at the time, that was the early 2000s, and magazines were still kicking. So you'd always over order because they would make up. And at the end of the week, you have extras and you have to prove to the publisher that you did not sell those. And I would sit in the back and strip those, especially those computer magazines. I would sit in the back of Copperfield's and read the stripped magazine cover to cover, and I felt like, wait, I'm reading a computer. Why don't I just use the internet? Anyway, it's a non sequitur, but I started my computer magazine reading at Copperfield's, very close to you.
It was all your fault, Dad. Why didn't I just read it on the internet?
If you worked in a bookstore or close, bookstores, I'm sure people are listening who've worked in bookstores, and it's a travesty, but stripping books was pretty common. You'd have way too many mass markets of some sci-fi book you totally wanted to read, so gotta strip that cover.
This reminds me of a story too. This magazine, the death of the computer magazine, reminds me of a story that I've maybe even told on Twit before. Of like when I was in the 90s, I was in college, right when the internet was hitting, and I was studying journalism, and I had these arguments with journalism instructors. I was like, this internet thing, like this is the future, like and they were like, no, they tried this experiment down in Florida, with like HyperCard, and the thing is, look, people just don't want to read on screens. And I was like, it's instantaneous and it's so much cheaper. Like you don't have any, trucks going and delivering papers and paper, carriers and all of that. And they're like, it's just not going to happen. You think of it, you just don't have the serendipity of flipping through things and be able to see. And they said, you should just you should get a job in magazines. I'm like, no, I want to work on the internet. Like this is where the future this is. And they're like, just get it, take the magazine class and get a job in magazines because you have a future there. So now to be fair, they're right. Like if I would have studied magazines, I could have had a job all the way up until 2023 or something, maybe actually probably not, maybe up until 2010 or something.
Yeah, I'd say, shave a few years off that for sure.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I sort of walked out and was like, yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. My, teenage mind. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. They can't teach me anything. When in fact they could, 90% of what they were saying was really excellent. They just had this 10% were wrong. It just happened to be like a really important 10% at that moment.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, yes, Computer Shopper, of course, was a magazine that I have fond memories of just because of the sheer it was just gigantic. But my history with computer magazines goes back into the 80s when I had a Commodore 64, and it was all the magazines that you could get then, like Compute, where you get it and it would have it would have some sort of machine language code that you could enter in manually into your computer, and you'd end up with a game on the other side, or you wouldn't, and then you'd have to go through line by line and troubleshoot it and everything. And so, yeah, I've got a fondness in my heart for the computer magazine. So when I saw this article, I was like, oh, okay. I need to take a couple of minutes to mourn the loss of the computer magazine.
One warm tear roll down your cheek.
Yeah, I'll say that one did, but one didn't. But it should have. If I was more of a computer nerd, a tear would have rolled down my cheek. So anyways, thanks to Harry McCracken for writing a really great article, as he does all the time.
So this is a UK thing, Nate. We have it in the States. We have an alert system. There's presidential alerts. There's severe weather alerts. There's alerts for missing kids. They call them Amber Alerts. But you don't have something like that in the UK?
We don't have presidential alerts because we don't have a president.
Obviously.
We don't have extreme weather.
Do you have King Charles alerts?
The weather's always
Hello.
terrible.
Hello, mates. This is the king. No?
I
not exactly received pronunciation.
I have met him, and he doesn't sound anything.
You have met him? Really?
Yeah.
How does he smell?
Fantastic.
I ask you this.
One of the best smelling monarchs in the world.
Yes, exactly. I ask you this because I read Spare, which is Prince Harry's book about, not being the heir, but being the spare. And it's interesting. I just want to, what's it like to be a prince? But one of the things he says early on is, my father always wears eau de sauvage. Cologne.
Surprised he doesn't have a custom scent.
You would think there'd be a King Charles scent, but no. And so I thought, well, I want to smell like a king. So I went out and I bought some eau de sauvage.
I want to smell like a king. It's such a funny thing to think to yourself before you go buy perfume.
Well, the funny thing is I told my mom this, and she said, oh, that's funny because I found out what Queen Elizabeth used to wear and I bought that perfume. So maybe it's a family.
Well, let me tell you. The thing that struck me was in person. It wasn't the Queen's our late Queen's perfume. It was, she had the best skin I have seen any human being ever.
You're noticing that, huh? So what did you get knighted? What happened there, Nate? How did that happen?
It was for the Jubilee a little while ago, and it was at the Palace, and
That's cool.
Invited.
What do you mean
It was really cool.
What are you, a peer of the realm? How did you?
The royal we.
So darling, yeah, the royal we. No, although I did actually go to it with Mike Butcher at TechCrunch. He was there as well, and it was I think it was for the Diamond Jubilee.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, they had a room. No one was allowed their phone, but they had a room that they called the Tweet Suite.
I see. You were social.
That's what I call my apartment.
Tweet Suite.
Well, we didn't. No one. I didn't see anyone in it. That's the thing. It was more like, if you were there and you wanted to use your phone,
it's right next to the smoking room. Yeah, if you're going to smoke, go there.
Both things that are going to destroy you inside and out.
Yes. Go to the Tweet Suite.
It was funny.
They did say that to the Queen, everything smells like fresh paint because everything's been freshly painted before she arrives.
Can believe that.
That's a little insight. I just thought I'd share that. So you didn't have presidential alerts. You have, and nor did you have kingly alerts or queenly alerts. Did you have any kind of alert, national alert system?
No, well, we have BBC News, which has a procedure for announcing the death of a monarch,
which failed, by the way. They tweeted it. The family tweeted it before the Beeb got to put the black thing up and play "God Save the Queen" and everything.
There's a protocol for that broadcast, but in terms of us out here in the general world, no, we don't really have a system. The closest that we've ever had to anything that you guys are familiar with was actually during COVID, where everyone got an SMS that basically said, hello, good morning. There's a deadly virus, and we have no cure. Please stay indoors. Thank you very much. Goodbye. It wasn't quite as formal as that, but we did all get one, and that was news. It's like, wow, the government's texting everyone in the country to say, please stay indoors, and we'll keep letting you know via this text. And that's fine. This was something wholly different. This is the same system that's built into smartphones that you have out in Asia as well, to warn of anything from, as you say, major threats to human life, imminent danger, missiles. There was the I was going to say the great case. It was not. I'm sure it was a horrific case, but the alert over Hawaii, I think, wasn't it? Recently, where
they got told that they were going to be bombed.
Yeah. So,
by the way, that was in error.
Yeah. And I do remember seeing a screenshot of someone saying that the alert that it was an error was 38 minutes after the original alert. I don't know if it's true.
I did. I've talked to people in Hawaii who saw the original alert, were freaked out. This was in 2018. It was said a ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Imagine getting that on your phone.
Well, we did today, but not with the same text, fortunately. It said, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was, have I still got it up here? I don't think I have. But it basically
I can play it.
This is the government.
Wait a minute. I can play it. You were doing your podcast.
But before you play that clip, the thing is, we knew this was coming. So everyone in the country for the last several weeks has been told, we are going to test this national emergency alert system. You have to bear in mind, no one here has ever had this sort of thing, and no one knew what it was going to sound like. And everyone was expecting that the alert would go off, but the real alert would be 2 minutes later when everyone's parents call up their son or daughter.
What the
hell has happened to my phone? What's going on? And that's the thing that would get everyone to pay attention. But we knew it was coming, and so we timed the podcast today so that it would happen live while we were on. And we knew roughly when it was meant to happen, but we didn't know if it was going to happen at that point. And so, yeah, I know the clip that you've got is as it happened.
All right, let's play this. This is a text message, Nate's podcast from yesterday. They're in the middle of a conversation.
Content warning, it's shrill.
Oh, yeah. Good point. I probably should have said that. And I have been trained after many years in broadcasting that it's illegal to play these. But on the other hand, this is a podcast, not a broadcast. So
the podcast police are going to come for you.
Yeah,
a different jurisdiction.
Let me just say this: what you're about to hear is not an alert. This is just a very good simulation.
Add up.
of alerts. So Nate and who's your co-host on this?
Ian Morris.
Ian and Nate are just
control of App Store
talking as one does.
Going to be looking very different in 5 years' time, I reckon. It's gonna be very
Mark in
different.
the chat says their longer term intent.
Oh,
is
good
they-
God! Here we go.
Oh, it's happened. Well, only for you,
panic,
it seems.
Panic!
I've got
Good
nothing.
God! How the hell do I turn this?
That's pretty much.
No, here we go. I've got it too. How exciting!
Good God! Off.
God, it's really annoying, isn't it? Go away.
We've had these in the States for some time, and it's the same tone, by the way, right?
Is it really?
Yeah.
I was curious to find out if that was true.
I think that's built into the phones, maybe, or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So there must have been a study done that's like that's the most
annoying. What's the most annoying sound you can make?
Bad sound.
We had people listening live to the episode, and they were talking to us. They were like, "Oh, I'm in a shopping mall, and it happened at exactly the same moment, and the entire mall goes off, and everyone pulls their phone out, and everyone's like, "What is this? What's going on?" It was quite surreal. I
was in a restaurant. We have this in the States for all sorts of things. Here comes the Queen or whatever. And
yeah, that classic United States experience.
Here comes the Queen. Stand back. Everybody, bow your heads. Don't look at her. No eye contact. We have one I don't know if it's only California. I think it's nationwide. There's severe weather alerts, but there's also earthquake alerts. And I was in a restaurant. We were in a pizzeria about a year ago, and it went off. Everybody in the restaurant, and we had never seen this before. They said, "What? There's going to be an earthquake." And sure enough, I guess what happens is when earthquakes take a while to move through the land. And so the earthquake had happened somewhere, and that triggered the alert, which then, because 10 seconds later, it's shaken. And it was a very
Did
surreal
you finish your pizza?
Yes, after that, we all became best friends and shared each other's pizzas. It really is a community
that's great. You
bonding.
got a free pizza out of this earthquake.
Yes, it's a bonding experience when you have these. A lot of people, I'm surprised that they don't have this in Britain. But
we do now.
Yeah. And apparently not everyone got it. It wasn't perfect. Much like the Starship launch. It was a successful test. But
the analysis, I think, will hit tomorrow about how successful it was, and there were some really interesting discrepancies. Because we were doing the show live, people were saying, "Oh, I haven't had it yet. I haven't had it," and then someone would say, "Oh, I've had it now." And they would say, "Well, I haven't had it. I'm on the same network," and trying to figure out why the person had got it. And it just struck me that at first I thought I could make a joke that only the people outside of London weren't receiving it because the government only cares about the people in the city. But realistically, it was actually more interesting to see, well, if this had been an imminent threat to life in the way that sometimes these sadly happen in the midst of, then a several minute discrepancy between everyone getting these alerts, that could make a difference in if this wasn't a test, if it wasn't a drone.
Yeah, I think it's the phone networks that are ultimately getting in the way, I would guess. The cell networks, but I don't know. I don't know how these get triggered. We were informed that there was a presidential alert some years ago. And the only reason I could think that you would want to alert every cell phone in the entire United States, which is hundreds of millions, right, is if there were, I don't know, a ballistic missile attack inbound. It seems like this is a bad idea, because what are you going to do? Get under the desk? I don't know. Anyway.
The instructions on screen were pretty clear. That it was only a test. But there's a limited amount of text there. So,
yeah.
Who knows? Hopefully
we can turn these off. I don't know about you, but in this, I'm looking at my iPhone. There is a place to turn these off.
I definitely have mine turned off.
Yeah,
I guess
they're
it's
just
probably
annoying.
not great, but
and I do now, and that's what's funny. When I tapped and when it went off, you press the settings button. It straight away it takes you to the page where you can just disable it. So I assume now everyone was like, well, good golly, we don't want that happening again. Turn this off now. And then it's all gone. So what they've really done is shot themselves in the foot. And everyone's turned it off now.
Yeah. You cannot turn off a presidential alert. And God help us if you ever get one of those, because that wouldn't be good.
Well, I'll be in the US in about 6 days again.
Oh, come visit us. What are you doing?
I'm the other side of the country this time. I was over a few weeks ago because we were filming. So we're filming the rest of the series.
Are you going to visit President Biden's tweet suite? Is that where you're headed?
No, although I am closer to him than I am to you. We're going to be in New York City for this shoot.
Michael and everybody want to say hi, I'm sure. Michael Bloomberg. The boss. That was so funny. The UK emergency alert test. We had Nate Langson on from the UK, Mike Elgan, and Paris Martineau. Wow. A pretty amazing story. We'll have more in just a little bit, including a great hacking tool that I got my hands on. We'll do a little hacking when we continue with the 2023 edition of This Week in Tech's Best Ofs. Our show brought to you by HID Global. Wouldn't it be nice to leave the stress of tedious PKI management behind in 2023 and stress less with complete certificate lifecycle automation from HID Global's PKI as a service model? You know, Google is moving towards now 90-day SSL certificates. That's going to be a tough thing to do every 90 days. And you know, there's nothing more embarrassing than an expired certificate. You got to have automation. Well, good news. HID's model of automation does not require any additional hardware or software investment or installs in order to automate the life cycles of your organization's certificates. For Google and Mac systems, HID's connector model of PKI uses open source certificate utilities. You know, that means your organization can use multiple operating systems, which is great for BYOD. You'll also ease your procurement pains. With HID Global, you can get up and running in 2 weeks. That's so much faster than the competition. And their assistance with deployment always includes incomparable white glove service, expertise, and knowledge. Plus, of course, you're going to receive ownership of your private keys. HID takes care of your PKI so you can spend your holidays and weekends taking care of yourself, your family, and the things that matter to you outside of work. Visit hid.link/twitdemo today. Thank you, HID. We really appreciate the support on This Week in Tech. Brianna Wu, Jeff Jarvis, and Alex Stamos. Boy, that's a powerhouse team. Take a look at some tools people are using for both pen testing and hacking. I have given myself a gold check. I don't know if you noticed, but in my shot now, I have a gold check. So I am.
Right. Who the hell are we? You have no idea.
I have a gold check.
I'm just a guy who walked into a studio.
You got the golden pineapple. So that's good. That's close. Yeah. Is that a Wi-Fi pineapple?
That is a Wi-Fi pineapple. I have my voted sticker in the Stanford Internet Observatory. But
now, let me ask you about that. Well, we'll take a break, but I want to ask you about Wi-Fi pineapple because I have very mixed feelings about this thing. But
yeah, you should.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. And there was another device that looked like a gaming joystick.
Flipper Zero.
Flipper Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about a bunch of stuff I show to my students.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that and a lot more when we come back. We've got a great panel. Wow, great panel. And you know, Alex, I'm sorry that you had to be here during what was clearly a superior team. Beating an inferior team, but I just say together we'll go down to LA.
But I'm doing so sadly.
Where's the hat? Oh, 1951 champions.
Yeah, I know.
That's
that
good.
Number is not.
That's really good.
Up.
1951 champions. We still love you. That's awesome. I'm glad you brought that hat. That's an awesome hat. Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize the Kings have been around since 1951.
Yeah, it's Kansas City. So they moved back in the 80s.
Were they Kings or what were they?
They're the Kansas City Royals, and then they renamed to the Kings, and then they were the
baseball, Kansas City Royals, which confused.
Yeah, I wonder if it was the same ownership or something.
Yeah,
I think they were I don't know if they're called the Royals, but I think there was a relationship with the baseball team.
Okay, nice. So tell me what the Wi-Fi pineapple is, Alex.
Wi-Fi Pineapple is a hardware device you can buy that runs its own operating system. So it's a little box with a bunch of antennas popping out of it. You can hook up to your computer, and it has this nice little web interface and lets you do lots of really interesting and mostly illegal stuff with Wi-Fi.
And I know the guy who sells it.
Is Hack5 been?
Good friend. He's a good friend. Hack5. I used to work with Hack5.
Yeah.
And I have mixed feelings about this. They say it's for pen testing.
And it is used for that, and I have used it for that. I use it mostly for educational purposes, right? So when I teach Wi-Fi in my fall classes about cybersecurity, my spring classes about trust and safety, but in the fall I teach a cyber class, and I do a demo where I intercept people's connections and pull up. One of the interesting things you can do with it is, so you're
the fun professor.
Yes, my ratings, my reviews are really good until I get fired, right? Like that's the, I think that's the here. So one of the cool things it does is, something people don't really understand is that when you add a device to a Wi-Fi network, and it remembers it, it will beacon for that. It will look for the beacon in the future. So your computer is effectively constantly saying, hey, anybody here Starbucks? Hey, anybody here is name of my home network and such. So like one of the fun demos I do is while I'm giving the Wi-Fi lecture, I'm sniffing in the background. Of course, all of the students, there's about 200 students in that class. They all have laptops open. 90% of them are probably not paying attention. Something, again, I can figure out with the Wi-Fi pineapple. And
I see you browsing your Blue Sky
How is
page.
TikTok today?
Yeah, exactly. And when they, at the end, I show, whose network is this? Whose network is this? And you have people raising their hand of like, that's my parents' network. That's the hotel I just went to and such. So it does all kinds of interesting stuff. Like one of the things you use it for is to pretend to be wireless network. So it has a radio that you can push perhaps a little bit beyond what the FCC says is a acceptable level of power output in the unregulated spectrum. And so what you can do is if you're in a public network, you can have it broadcast at a higher decibel level and take over, and people will associate to it, and then it will route all that traffic over. You can have it go over like a GSM card or LTE or over a hardwire if you have it, and then you can sniff all of that traffic.
You watch it as it goes out to the internet.
Yeah.
They still think they're on the internet, but they're going through you.
All stuff you can do with like a properly configured Linux laptop and such, but like this just makes it all easy. And because it has its own CPU, you have your computer attached, you tell it what to do, and then you can walk away. You can leave it there.
Yeah.
So that's often we have used it for penetration tests. A good place for it, especially if you have a battery pack attached to it, is the restrooms in the lobby, right? So if you can use a restroom in a lobby of a building and they have a drop ceiling, you can go put it in the drop ceiling and let it take over Wi-Fi.
So this is my mixed feelings about this. And, I've never talked to Darren about it, but it's $120.
Yes.
A script kiddie could use this. And that's my problem is if you're going to do it with a configured Linux laptop, you know what you're doing.
Not necessarily, but yes, it is one of these interesting tools where effectively almost anything you do with it's illegal unless you're doing it in a Faraday cage, right? So like, doing most of the stuff.
But it's legal to sell it, even though anything you could do with it would be illegal.
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
Freedom, man.
Freedom.
So Shira Ovid at the Washington Post had a piece today saying 5 things you shouldn't worry about. Number 1 was using Wi-Fi in a public space.
Okay.
That's changed a little bit. I mean, since the days of Firesheep where you were sending unencrypted traffic and somebody could impersonate you. But this thing, as Alex just explained, but let me say it. So, Jeff, you were just at a hotel somewhere and using their Wi-Fi. You still have that in your list of Wi-Fis that you've accessed. The Pineapple can impersonate it and can be stronger than the coffee shop Wi-Fi. So your laptop, without any, talking to you, will say, oh, hey, we're back at the hotel.
Yeah.
Let's check in. It's a better signal.
I mean, things are better now in that HTTPS has become pretty much ubiquitous.
Yeah, thanks to Google, HTTPS everywhere.
Thanks to HTTPS Anywhere, plugin makers. Thanks to Let's Encrypt, the EFF's project to give,
which makes it easier to be SSL.
Honestly, thanks to Ed Snowden. I mean, we don't want to do a whole Snowden thing. I have mixed feelings here, but there was a massive move to encrypt, and I saw a bunch of that. I was a CISO at Yahoo. Yahoo would not have done all the work necessary, which was very expensive and very difficult, to encrypt all of Yahoo's sites to HTTPS all the time if it wasn't for the Snowden disclosure.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, it turned out it was very difficult for anybody who wasn't Google and therefore in a fully contained ecosystem, because there's a huge ecosystem problem. Like every bit of JavaScript you pulled in, every analytics platform you used, right? All that stuff had to go to HTTPS.
And it was all distributed on a bunch of servers. Yeah. You may not even have owned all the servers.
Right. And so it took years to get there. And it basically happened because of the Snowden disclosures, because it turned out that
I thought it was Firesheep. Firesheep seemed like the tipping point when any idiot could go into a coffee shop and steal your Facebook.
Which you could have done for a long time before that, using a variety of tools. But tools of like, you had to be running Linux, you had to tweak the kernel a little bit.
See, that's my point with the Pineapple. As soon as it gets easy, So, and then there's this Flipper Zero, which is something more recent, the multi-tool device for geeks.
Yes, it's fun.
Do you own? It sounds like you might own one, Brianna.
Well, I don't own one, but I've certainly looked at the coverage of this. And before my comments, I really want to stress that we have criminalized white hat hacking, like in the United States.
But it always has been. My friend Russell Schwartz was working at Intel, did a little freelance pen testing at Intel and got thrown in jail for it.
100%. Or you remember when the AT&T thing happened a few years ago with the iPhone, right? You had people basically they tried to cover up by getting people charged. They've done basically pen testing and trying to report vulnerabilities. We've seen that levied politically. So just my blanket comment here is, look, as a policy, I'm 100% white hat hacking. I think we need ways to indemnify people that are out there doing what I consider public service that's in the interest of national security. That said, if you look at the Pineapple Zero and some of the things you can do with it, you have people with no training whatsoever that can go unlock cars. They can change the price of gas at a gas station, right?
Oh, wait a minute. I want to know more about that. That's cool.
This was reported by something I saw. But the bottom line with this is like an individual gas station, they don't have a pen testing department, right? Yeah. They don't.
So what the deal is, you buy a tank of gas, then tell them, hey, by the way, I've just found a vulnerability.
Oh, 100%. They'll give it to you free. No, but I get that this is a tool that can be used for good things, but I also think it is made in a way that introduces these vulnerabilities to people that have no real way to act on it.
So the Flipper Zero was, I think it was a Kickstarter. It was somehow crowdfunded.
That's what I'm thinking of. Correct.
Yeah, and it's a really kind of an IoT. It's kind of designed for not for Wi-Fi, but for the sub 1 gigahertz.
Yeah, it's
radios.
effectively, so it doesn't do Wi-Fi. Like you said, it's sub 1 gigahertz. There's a ton of spectrum used for IoT systems. Zigbee, LoRa is one. So there's a bunch of standards that people use for their gardening systems and their home alarm systems,
or opening the parking garage gate,
or a garage door, right?
Or a garage door,
yeah. So that's
or your
the first thing
doorbell.
with it, RFID on your cards. This is effectively a super cheap version of the USRP, right? So we've had software-defined radio for a while. They've often been very expensive. What these folks did is they built a software-defined radio platform. They limited its frequency range to make it cheaper, and then put a cool little GUI on it and create a community. So there's this community of people that you can download programs onto a little SD card and pop it in. So I use the Flipper Zero. I demonstrate to my Stanford students. I copy one of their badges.
Yeah, so you can go around the campus as them.
Yeah,
right.
So I can enter
professor, at it again.
Honestly, this more points up the flaw in the badges than it does anything else.
Well,
right?
Actually, can I say something about that really quickly? When I ran for Congress, one of the things I really got a crash course in is the way that large data and things like this, I always say misused by police departments, but there's certainly asymmetric defense that can be done by police departments, right? Because they do have the power to go and Google your entire history of your Android phone and find out everywhere you've been, where the defense, your defense, that may be prohibitively, expensive. So it's really easy to see something like this, like someone stealing your badge and then making it look like you're part of a crime, right? Then how do you go and prove your innocence there? I mean, it's very easy to imagine scenarios, and there's not a clear policy direction here forward because we don't want to criminalize pen testing and looking for vulnerabilities. At the same time, this is something that has a tremendous capability for misuse, and I truly don't know where to go from here.
It's only $169. I'm ordering one right now because I think we could have some fun, some fun with it.
Oh boy!
Should these be illegal?
No.
Okay.
No, but again, it's not something. I mean, the Flipper is interesting because it doesn't have a humongous amount of range. You
have to be. It's kind of you have to be proximate.
You have to be reasonably proximate.
Yeah.
but it still certainly could be used to steal cars and such. So,
Jeez Louise. Well, Hyundais particularly, those are really easy to steal, I hear.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I drove through the city, so, I cut off a couple of catalytic converters because it's what you do.
Yeah, you just pick them up, take them with you. You never know when you might need an extra, right? Yeah. Wow. It's an interesting time we live in. Fortunately, the good news is most people are honest.
Yes.
It's only that small, I don't know, 1/10 of 1% that have the larceny in their hearts.
Ruin it for everybody.
Then they ruin it for everybody.
So only sell to the good people. Just like you only let the good people into blue sky.
Exactly.
Or you don't need trust and safety.
Yeah. It is 10 years since Edward Snowden and his revelations changed our world. Snowden says, thanks to me, end-to-end encryption is everywhere. We now understand what governments are learning about us, and we are more aware of privacy. I also think it's a little weird that he is now a Russian citizen. He's been living in Moscow for the past 10 years, but that's mostly because the U.S. wouldn't let him live anywhere else. He was in Hong Kong. They chased him out of Hong Kong. He had planned to go to Ecuador until he was told, you can't go there. So now he's a Russian citizen. The good news is you can't be extradited if you're a Russian citizen. I am so up in the air on this one. I don't.
I think it's the same. Like on one hand, you're like, okay, he brought a lot of horrible things that were going on to light, and he did for the public to understand privacy and encryption is a huge deal. But at the same time,
he jeopardized national security. Keith Alexander, who was NSA director.
Well, he also trusted Glenn Greenwald, which is
another mistake.
Possible. Like that right there is the biggest mistake he made. It wasn't like it was like, oh, I'm going to trust the biggest idiot in journalism.
I think what the way Snowden did it, I think his intentions were good, and trying to pick somebody to work with and make sure everything stayed encrypted and, review everything and not just like WikiLeaks just publish the whole thing. He tried to do it.
No, he went to a bunch of journalists.
Yeah.
He let them vet the information.
Right. And do it try to do it in a responsible way.
He said, I went
to Robbie's point, Glenn Greenwald.
Right. Yeah. Well, but at the time we might not have known, that Glenn was what he was to become. But honestly, Snowden says, I tried whistleblowing. It didn't work. They wouldn't listen to me. I had to do this. And certainly we've learned a lot from him about, NSL scooping up everyone's records. In 2015, Congress wrote the USA Freedom Act, which made that illegal. Rightly so. So there have been some shifts and benefits. This is terrible, but I feel like he should have done what Reality Winner did, what Chelsea did, Chelsea Manning. He should have done what he did and then stood up and taken the charges. But in response, said, I'm responsible. Look, I think this is important. I will go to court. I will be tried. And if you put me in jail, you put me in jail.
Yeah.
Going to Russia taints it a little bit.
It does. It taints it a lot because, he can't say any, how do you feel about the Ukraine war, Edward Snowden? You're never going to hear about that because he says in Russia.
He says, according to NPR, I'm constantly criticizing the Russian government's policy, the Russian government's human rights record, even the Russian president by name. I think he's not doing it really loudly.
I think he's criticizing,
maybe at night,
super quietly. He whispers it.
A blanket over his head.
Right. He's like, the president's terrible. Okay, now I'm going to bed. Like, how does that?
And also, you live in Russia, so if you're not being critical of Putin because you live in Russia and you don't want to fall out of a window, which seems to be a thing that happens a lot in Russia.
Yeah.
Then I understand, but it also
they need better railings there. I don't know.
They need better railings, better windows. I don't know what the situation is with Russia and Windows, but the people just falling out of them, and they always seem to be people who Putin are angry with. So maybe they're just so sad because Putin's not happy with them. They're just leaning on the window, smoking a cigarette.
Who put plutonium in my tea?
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
How did I get poisoned just because I was critical of the president?
I actually like how Quippy Quint in our Discord chat put it. He did the right thing in the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that way. He's trying to do a good thing, but he just did a good thing bad.
He is still charged. If he were to come back, he would face charges. He's got a family and children now in Russia.
He's not coming back then.
He's not coming back.
He's got kids.
He's not coming back.
So I'm grateful to him for what he did. I really am. I think it was important. I don't know. I think if you're going to do something so honorable, so important, it's hard, but you got to stand up and don't do the crime if you can't do the time, in the words.
Kind of like have that courage, the courage of your convictions. Like if you're gonna do that and you're gonna go out there and you're gonna do something you know is iffy for a good reason, then like, okay, I believe in it so much, I will take the heat for whatever I have done in the interest of getting this information out there.
And then the trial, just even in discovery for the trial, they would have been able to, uncover more things that had been going on.
Right.
There's a lot of, and even if he gets convicted, there'll always be people who are like, oh, well, what he did is just wrong, top to bottom. And you're like, all right. But I think a majority of people understand what he did and what that means for us, privacy and encryption wise, it was a benefit. And I think, at some point a president would be like, you know what, just go home and wherever you're from.
That's what happened to
Edward Snowden's
Chelsea
from.
Manning, right? Obama commuted her sentence, right?
You're like, you did a bad thing for a good reason.
For a good reason. Exactly.
Yeah. That benefits others. Yeah. So, and the country in general.
Yeah. I feel honor bound to defend Trainwrecks, who is one of the people behind Kick. I mean, this is someone who, if you listen to him talk about the business model for Kick, he talks about the lifetime user value of bringing someone over there and getting them on what they call the Gamba train. Can't call it gambling. Got to be Gen Z. Call it the Gamba. And this is something that Twitch.
Great. So really he's going to addict a whole new generation.
I'm saying
to
it's
gambling,
a revenue model. I'm saying it's a revenue.
You got to find a sucker somewhere. If it's not the stock market, it's gamblers.
I do like a reader's just
but there's no
only fathers.
There's no sustainable business without screwing somebody.
Yeah, no, but you used to be.
The only reason Twitter investors got their money out is because some idiot paid $44 billion for it.
Exactly.
All successful businesses are built on vice. Every single one.
Says the priest.
No, and it says the priest.
What about
probably better than most.
No, I'm dead serious. Even nonprofits. You know how we raise money?
It's all based on
appeal
greed,
to ego,
pride.
We appeal to legacy,
lust.
What about Legos? How are Legos built on vice?
Legos are built on this idea of idealizing childhood, the simplicity of building something,
and the greed of children.
That's very disrespectful
have more Lego.
To Wu Lando, my $20,000.
No. I'm not saying that.
City.
Oh my gosh,
I gotta have more Lego.
Get rid of it. But I'm just saying you have to understand that every successful business, in some way or form, appeals to a vice.
Sure. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me just look. The 7 deadly sins. I have to do a little refresher.
Oh, we should do the 7 deadly sins and then group the companies in those Venn diagrams.
Gluttony, lust, greed, despair. I don't think anybody's making money on despair, but we'll have to research.
Netflix,
OnlyFans.
We were watching Sandman, and I think Netflix is making quite a bit of money.
Wrath, Twitter.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Sloth.
Video games.
Podcast.
Yeah. No. Sloth is DoorDash.
DoorDash.
Yeah.
Fair.
Pride. Who's making money on Pride? Lego. No.
I'm proud of myself.
No, Twitter is also Pride. A lot
Twitter's
of
pride.
people want to
Facebook
post. They want to get those likes, those follows.
Nobody actually goes on Facebook and says, "Oh God, really bad PMS today. My head is killing me." So had a lovely day today with the family. Here's some artfully taken
I
shot.
just woke up. My hair is perfect and my skin is flawless.
That's Instagram, I think.
Lust,
that is
sloth, wrath. I think we got them all. Envy. Who's based on envy?
Insta.
FOMO.
What's the one with for Zillow?
Zillow
is envy.
Yeah.
There you go.
I use Zillow to actually get a house. So.
There's some people use it for real, but most people use it for
You may actually be one of the virtuous people, which means you need to get out of here.
We think of virtue, think of Brianna Williams.
Isn't that interesting? I think you've got a new... We're going to call it the Balasair theorem.
I'm so going to do this. I'm
All
going to make a big
internet
poster.
Companies are based on one of the 7 deadly sins.
You should come up with some elements so when you talk about Twitter, this deadly sin comes up.
Are there any venial sins that I can do that maybe...
Every Great Fortune is based on a crime?
Yeah.
I'm damned if I can remember.
Probably someone British.
Hang on.
The monarchy, to get Brianna back in on this.
Behind every great fortune
is a flag.
There is a crime. Balzac.
Okay. Yeah, don't blame the Brits for this one. He's a French bloke.
It was a good guess. It was a good guess.
It's a French bloke with a very dodgy sounding name.
I didn't know this, but it was the epigraph of The Godfather. It was the epigraph of The Godfather.
Yes. Yes,
it was inspired by a sentence written by Balzac. Le secret de grande fortune sans cause apparente est un crime oublié. The secret of grand fortunes without obvious cause is a forgotten crime.
See, it just sounds better in French.
Yeah.
Some languages are better at that.
Really
this is the reason there's been no German love poets. Just.
I did want to mention, Paris did a great story about something I'd never heard of. It was your weekend
You've never
piece.
heard of Blind?
I'd never heard of Blind, and now I'm worried that my employees are living. Have you ever heard of Blind? No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have, Lou.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
So what is what is Blind?
So I'll let Paris talk about it more in depth, but I can tell you anything that happens that's at a Microsoft or Google or whatever, people get on there and they voice their issues with it.
And you're doing it anonymously, right? They can't tell you're doing it.
Well, they have your email address.
Yeah.
So they could technically relate you back to a username, but they supposedly don't tell the company.
Tech people are smart enough.
Say whatever you want.
They could anonymize. I would imagine they could anonymize it. Paris writes.
Yeah, so those who are out of the loop.
Go ahead.
The Blind app, I think we should just explain what it is for if anybody's listening. It's essentially an anonymous workplace social media app where, there are no names, but everybody on there has to sign up with a company email address if you want to post and comment. So, you'll see something from a username. It's just like XYZ123, but they say Amazon next to it. And that means they're a verified current Amazon employee who signed up using their Amazon email. And then people will use this to talk about kind of tech news, anything related to work, but you also then have kind of these internal company channels where Amazon employees can talk to Amazon employees. And so it's been a great source of leaks and interesting tech news, because if you see a post from somebody who's a verified Amazon employee saying, hey, don't ask me how I know, but layoffs are coming next week, you might pay attention more than just some Yahoo on Reddit.
And it's pretty difficult to tease out sometimes the parody and the trolling accounts too. So people start
it's a real Wild West.
Terrible conversations about people internally sometimes that you're like, wow, that's not real. So yeah, it's just tough sometimes.
Paris writes, Blind has become something like a Reddit for workplaces, mixing anonymous nastiness with layoff leaks, confessions about compensation, and a bonanza of corporate gossip. Oh, this sounds juicy. Can I just go and read it, or do you have to have...
You can, yeah. Anybody can go and read it. You can sign up with a personal email, and you can just read whatever you want. You can also just look at it on the web browser without signing in. You could use your TWiT email, though, Leo, and make an account.
I'm going to do a parody account.
And the thing is, there is, precedent. A lot of CEOs and founders, the reason why I ended up doing this article is because this is a really popular app among, tech workers and people in Silicon Valley. But a lot of what they're talking about are the sort of things that would piss bosses off. And I started to hear that, CEOs and founders absolutely hate Blind. It's something a lot of them talk about all the time.
Well, the worst thing you can do from the point of view of the boss is reveal how much you make. Bosses hate that. You're legally protected.
Yes.
You can do that. It's not illegal. Bosses will lie to you. They'll say, oh, no, we keep this secret. This could be where no retaliation is allowed, but they do not want you to do that, because then everybody has a better negotiating position. Because I know how much Jammer B's making. I want to make more if I'm running the board, right?
And that's one of the real reasons why Blind has taken off, is because, I mean, one of the primary uses outside of kind of gossip is people coming to Blind being like, hey, I got this offer from Google. Here is, my experience. Here is the salary. Here's the comp, like equity package and things like that. I have an offer from, let's say, like Microsoft, also one from Uber. Here's what I've got. What do you guys think I should do? How should I negotiate? And people will get in there with very specific advice and examples.
You'll find it interesting. A lot of the templates for just normal posts include TC. You'll see TC around there, which is total comp. And people just put that in there as like their like the bottom part of their post. So they could be talking about the lunchroom and then just put TC, their level, and what they're making, and that's like just what they do by default.
That's table stakes. Wow.
Yep.
It became, you're right, it became well known, and some of you may remember this, when a Korean Airlines vice president lost it on a flight to Seoul. This is back in 2014. She was served macadamia nuts in a paper bag rather than on a plate. She actually forced the plane to return back to the gate, but then a post by an employee resulted in global media coverage, and she ultimately got a year in jail for saying, "Where's my plate?"
Turns out you can't really make a plane go back to the gate just because of over macadamia nuts without having some people get involved.
I will say, as a company founder and principal, I think this is great. I think people, it benefits employees. It's too bad that you have to sift through some of the stuff to know whether it's real or not. Is it pretty obvious, Lou, when you read something that
some of them are. People usually come to aid, so they'll say this is not true, this is a troll, or that kind of thing. And then most people will kind of jump on that, but it's sometimes pretty difficult.
Look at these
when the layoffs happen, recently, people always ask what's the reason for the layoffs, and sure, there's really, most people don't know. They could be performance related or budget related or whatever, and they'll go in there and speculate, but say it's like fact, and then people don't know. So it's tough.
This is the from Paris's article at The Information. This is the poster Blind posted in 2015 around the, you remember this? Around the campus?
Oh, yeah.
Mini Microsoft 2.0. Talk to your coworkers anonymously. And then on a phone screen, it says, okay, I think I just got promoted. My comp only went up 8%. Is this right? And then a poll. No, you got screwed. Yes, this is normal. It depends. And then search for Blind in the App Store or Google Play. This ad not affiliated nor endorsed by Microsoft, like Yammer, which, of course, was the big acquisition of 2015.
It's so funny because Microsoft was one of the first companies where Blind ever really took off, and they got it to take off by making these posters which reference this thing called Mini Microsoft, a really popular anonymous blog in the mid-aughts. And the two founders snuck into Microsoft's campus in the dark of night. One of them drove, the other one, who was skinnier and faster, sprinted out and slapped them on different things before security guards could catch them, and it helped their app take off.
I love this. Uber, after Susan Fowler's famous blog post about sexual harassment, the company banned Blind in 2017. Tesla and others have gone a step further and blocked inbound account verification emails from Blind. Oh, that's clever.
Yeah.
Oh, to stop employees from signing up. Wow. What a story.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Companies don't want it, right?
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting. I asked the founders about this, and they were like, actually, we don't really worry about it too much. It's been a thing ever since we were in Korea. It's very easy to get around email blocks. We can just make other emails and do other things. But he's like, it actually benefits us because when this happens, it's the Streisand effect,
Yep.
People start asking, what's Blind? I hadn't heard of this. Why are they blocking it? And look them up and download it, and people end up talking. You can't really... they had originally decided to make the app because there had been it's a South Korean company, and one of the co-founders had worked for the Korean search giant Naver, which had its own short-lived anonymous employee forum that really took off among employees, and then the company shut it down once they started getting too frank and talking about the sort of things bosses don't like you to talk about, like compensation and whatnot. So from the beginning, they've been like, we know companies aren't going to like this, but we've got to find a way to give workers a voice.
There's a long tradition of this. I mean, there was, remember Yak that was really caused problems in high schools. It was
Secret.
Oh my God, yeah. Both of which have gone away.
Blind came to the U.S. right as all of these anonymous apps had really taken off and gotten a bad rap for just being anonymous toxic cesspools.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that set Blind apart was it's tied to work. There is some level of verification.
Yik Yak's still around. I didn't realize that. I think Secret.
Really?
I think Secret went away, right?
Yeah, Secret died like 16 months after launching.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Because it was, well, frankly, it was a real problem. I note, though, that on the Yak webpage, Find Your Herd on Yik Yak, anonymously connect with anybody at your college. So they're pushing it more at college level. And they're at the links at the bottom. There's jobs, privacy, terms, and law enforcement. So clearly, I mean, this was one of the issues, is that some of the traffic on these sites was really actionable. It was completely inappropriate. Good. Well, I hope Blind does well and continues to do well. I think that's a great thing, and I'm so glad you are doing so well at the information. It is worth subscribing for Paris Martineau alone. But I get so much great stuff. You a lot of scoops. I love the weekend edition. Just some really good stuff. Yanko works there now. He's just did a thing on exploding kittens. Jessica Lesson is always interesting and provocative. I'm glad to put in a plug for the information.
Take a fun deep dive. Go read the comments on my Blind story. People are up in arms. There's 15 of them. You know. I think the Blind founders got in there at some point.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I love it. Yeah, you have to. The commenting on the information is great because it's a process. It almost feels like you have to be approved. Like it's very high level commenters.
It's tied to your subscriber account.
Right.
So if you comment, you have to comment with your name
as a real person,
which makes it very interesting.
Yeah. I've made comments I've made comment once, I think, on the information, and it was a great conversation that resulted out of it. So
yeah, it's a lot of CEOs being like, Blind attracts whiners and haters.
Yeah, it's only the negative people. You never hear from the happy employees on Blind.
People aren't being like, I love my boss for giving me a job. He's great.
My favorite comment, Kenneth Goldman says, going to the app now. And that was the big fear.
We all need libraries, and publishers and authors and readers all need sustainable.
I'm going to get under my desk because there's an earthquake.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Oh my gosh. We're gonna keep on, Corey. Let's watch the earthquake happen as it unrolls. I think you're all right, Corey.
I'm definitely going to stop talking about my thing.
He's not going to be safer under the desk. I just want to point out there's quite a few books in there. I hope those bookshelves are strapped down. I think he's going to be all right. It could be related to Hurricane Hillary. Who knows? By the way, 5.0. It was at the in the Sulphur Mountain, southeast of Ojai, and you have survived. Thank goodness.
It really rattled our dishes, and I just gotten a text from my wife and daughter inside the house, and they're fine.
Good.
But boy, oh boy, like it actually, I really, really felt it. Like
You jumped out of that desk. I hope you have a strong desk. I'm just
because I got an alert saying there is an earthquake. Get into shelter, and I was like, oh, that's cute. I don't feel anything. And then a minute later, I was like, wait,
this is the new Google alerts. They're very interesting. They let you know ahead of time.
Because the travels at the speed of light, right?
Exactly,
and the earthquake travels at the less than the speed of sound.
Through the mantle of the earth.
This is a very big Monday morning for me. Like Corey's got his earthquake. We got the Simon & Schuster news, and Corey had much nicer news earlier before you went on air. Can we talk about that? I still think that's the coolest thing that's ever happened.
I am watching. I haven't watched Futurama in a while. I will watch it tomorrow. That is for sure. That's exciting.
Corey, can you tell everybody that? Because we didn't talk about that on air, did we?
Yeah, we did. That was in the show. Yes, absolutely.
Was it in the show? Oh my God.
It was in the show.
I still think that is like of all of the things that have ever happened, and there's some really cool thing happened. I think when Margaret Atwood blurbed the book, that was a very cool thing that happened. But
you're famous now, Rebecca.
You're going to be Futurama episode. That's good.
That's pretty good. It doesn't get much better.
I'm also very excited about the Varoufakis thing. You know, I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah.
He was
No, of course I know who he is, but this is Futurama.
I know you know who he is. I don't know if Leo follows him.
I do not know who he is.
So Varoufakis was the finance minister of Greece during Grexit, during the moment in which Greece nearly defaulted on its debt.
Yeah.
But before that, he was the chief economist of Valve.
What?
And he designed the economics of all of Valve's multiplayer games.
You're kidding.
He's amazing. So this is the book. It's coming out in a couple of months. I blurbed it. And when I got to the end, I was like, wait a second. He says nice things about me on the last page.
In the book, Techno-Feudalism, What Killed Capitalism. Corey, you're going to be the guy, you know. You and Rebecca, they'll be, they'll say, yeah, they wrote this in the British Library and it was incredible. And I don't know.
No, like Marx. We wrote it indoors because we couldn't leave the house because we pawned our pants.
Wow. By the way, good news, no tikis, nor were any panelists harmed in that LA earthquake, but fast action on Corey's part. I want some fast action out of you right now for our sponsor, Rocket Money. I love these guys. I've been a Rocket Money customer for years now. Let me ask you this. If I asked you how many subscriptions you have that you're auto paying out of your account every month, would you even know? Would you be able to list them? Would you even know how much you're paying? I'll tell you, I wouldn't have known before I started using Rocket Money. I thought I knew, but I was very wrong. Rocket Money saved me thousands of dollars. Rocket Money, for instance, found a campaign contribution. You know how when you do campaign contributions, everybody does this now. They're sneaky. They have little check boxes that make this a monthly, make this recurring. I didn't notice. And I didn't know, I must have missed it. I didn't notice it on my credit card. For months, I was paying a significant amount of money for a campaign, by the way, that was already over. Thank you, Rocket Money. You literally saved me thousands last year. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It helps you lower your bills. It's great for budgeting. It is an amazing thing. I know what my net worth is at any given moment. Rocket Money has more than 5 million users. That tells you something, right? And they've helped save members an average of, get this, $720 a year. More than $500 million in canceled subscriptions. You can see all your subscriptions in one place. If you see something you don't want, hey, wait a minute. Why am I giving that person a campaign contribution? The election was 2 years ago. You press a button. By the way, you don't have to call them. You can cancel it with a single tap. You don't never have to get on the phone with customer service. Rocket Money does it for you. This is a no-brainer. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/twit. I think this is the best tool I've ever used for this. rocketmoney.com/twit. No, that's why I've been a member for years now. rocketmoney.com/twit. Thank you, Rocket Money, for saving me big. I'm such an idiot. Oh, man. That's so many subscriptions. All right. Let's see. We have Nicholas De Leon from Consumer Reports on, Dan Morin from Six Colors and Macworld, and Ian Thompson from The Register. Now, that is a great panel. You know there's going to be a great discussion. We talked about Apple's explanation of why it decided to just abandon that CSAM-Scanning tool. Apple declined. They had announced and then backed down on including a CSAM tool, a tool for checking for child sexual abuse material on iCloud. They announced it in August, almost exactly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Then they paused that like a month later because they said, "Oh, yeah, nobody likes this." Especially,
it never went into effect.
Never happened
because it was extremely controversial, obviously, because it involved scanning stuff on people's devices before it was uploaded to the cloud. And I think this is the rare case of them doing a nice job of actually listening to people and taking into account the concerns and then rethinking and deciding not to do something. And especially, I think, with all the other legislation they're now having to fend off about encryption and security, it is real difficult for them to open that door, right? Because if they start scanning for this material, what is to prevent a government asking to scan for some other material that surely you can identify, right? Hey, you did it for this, so perhaps you can do it for terrorism or for stuff we just don't like. So I think they realized that was opening a door they didn't want to open.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it and concluded that it really wasn't a good idea. I mean, look, this is the problem. Nobody thinks this is a good, child pornography is a good thing in any respect. Everybody wants to put the perpetrators in jail and stop the practice. However, there is a limit to how far you can go. I mean, sure, we could catch every criminal if we gave law enforcement, access to our bedrooms and our living rooms as well as our streets. But we all agree that that's, a bridge too far. The reason this is not a dead subject, this week, a new child safety group that calls itself Heat Initiative, again, interesting branding, told Apple it's going to organize a campaign to demand that the company detect, report, and remove child sexual abuse material from iCloud and offer more tools for users to report CSAM to the company. The problem with this is you put out this press release, most people, without thinking, say, yeah, well, that's a good idea, Apple, you should do that, because they don't understand that there's a consequence to doing this. And then it's up to us and others to explain, well, this is the problem. It doesn't stop there.
If you did a questionnaire saying, would you like to have CSAM material banned from the internet? Pretty much everyone would be fine with that. Of course. But if you said to them, would you be okay with backdooring your personal communications and giving license for the police or anyone else who Congress deems suitable to have access to all of your material? People would be slightly more iffy about that.
Yeah, it's an easy win for politicians, right? Like, because then for them to come out, like you just said, to come out saying, like, I'm against this and this is what we're going to do to stop this. It's like everyone, again, no one wants to be the person to stand up to them and be like, yeah, but because they'll immediately get branded as supporting these terrible things that happen, right? Which is not what we're saying. It's just, it is a complex issue and it has implications well beyond this. I mean, this is, I'm sure Ian, has thoughts on the encryption laws that are now being floated in the UK as well as elsewhere, and like similar issues, right? Yeah, you could use these to do things against, people who are doing nefarious things, but what are the consequences and implications of doing that all over?
Well, in the British case, the Home Secretary was like, well, technology is under development, which will allow us to both, secure end-to-end encryption and find this couple.
Someday.
I've been hearing that for 10 or 15 years now, and it's never going to happen.
Is that magic? Is that what that technology is? Is it magic?
Well, this is it. It's like the old saying, you can't get a little bit pregnant. You either, you go the whole hog or you don't.
And as somebody in our IRC is saying, the problem is in many countries, being gay is considered harmful to children. It's starting to become that way in this country, sad to say. And so if you start enforcing this, where do you stop? And do you give Saudi Arabia the ability to hang gay people because, you're giving them names and addresses of people self-identifying on the website? That's not good. So this is Apple's response. So this is interesting because normally Apple, I think, Dan, during this whole thing, Apple's said nothing and they just let it play out. But they're taking this Heat Initiative petition seriously. Apple's director of user privacy and child safety sent a response to Wired saying child sexual abuse material is abhorrent. You have to say that. That has to be the first sentence. Yes, it's horrible. And we are committed to breaking the chain of coercion and influence that makes children susceptible to it. Yes. But after collaborating with an array of privacy and security researchers, and this was 2 years ago, digital rights groups, child safety advocates, the company concluded it could not proceed with the development of a CSAM-Scanning mechanism, even one built specifically to preserve privacy. This is the quote, scanning every user's privately stored iCloud data would create new threat vectors for data thieves to find and exploit. It would also inject the potential for a slippery slope of unintended consequences. Scanning for one type of content, for instance, opens the door for bulk surveillance and could create a desire to search other encrypted messaging systems across content types. Apple's really come around on this because I remember 2 years ago, they weren't quite so adamant about that, right, Dan?
No, yeah, they very much promulgated it on the idea like we have found this perfect solution to that bridges privacy and the ability to actually act against this. And, Apple at its worst is often very convinced of the fact that it is incredible and amazing and has no faults. And I credit them for taking a step back and actually not only discontinuing this program, but now speaking out about it, I think is a good move on their part. So it may be a 180, but I think there's a value to saying we have more information and we've reconsidered, right? There's a lot of people, politicians again, especially, that would never do that. They would never turn a 180 on that because you got to stay the course and stick to it. But there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, we did more research. People talked to us, we learned something, and we decided, you know what, that is not the best approach to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had something similar in the UK with the Ripper Act, which was introduced after the bombings in London, which would basically allow the police much easier access to search all your documents. And then when they published the legislation, they were allowing everyone down to parish councillors. So that's kind of like the equivalent of your town, your town's elected board, to have access to that kind of information. And luckily, the Home Secretary's son was an IT consultant, and he sat him down and said, look, this is a stupid idea because, and the legislation got amended. But yeah, you're right. No politician wants to be seen to be U-turned, even if they are actually in the wrong and they know it.
Apple said, we concluded it was not practically possible to implement without ultimately imperiling the security and privacy of our users. That's, by the way, correct. Right. And I think it's almost mathematically provable. If you've got a system, however many safeguards you build in that reveals this stuff, ultimately it can be used to reveal much more and right. use. And Apple, the last thing Apple wants to do is get requests from Saudi Arabia to say, hey, tell us who's gay. That's the last thing Apple wants to do. That would be devastating to them as a company.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I think, certainly taking into account Tim Cook's personal life, that I think he would certainly not like to be seen as enabling that kind of thing. And it's this sort of thing, it's the same sort of argument that we're going to be having about encryption laws of the world over, which right. is you can't make a backdoor that only good guys can access because there's no card swipey system where you can swipe something and be like, see, it proves I'm a good guy, right? Like that technology doesn't exist. So as long as you open the door for someone, you're risking opening the door for everybody.
And, if you actually invent a system like that, enforce it and tell people you've got it, Russia, China, North Korea are going to launch mini Manhattan projects to break it. But yeah, I mean, all the politicians can say what they want, but I interviewed Bruce Schneier on this a few years back, and he's like, look, it's mathematics. You can pass all the laws you want, but you can't break fundamental laws of mathematics unless you actually invent a new mathematical system.
Yep. That's kind of what I'm saying is it's very clear there's no way to do this properly. However, it's also very clear that governments will continue to try this. Apple is, and I should mention Facebook with WhatsApp and other companies, Google, are moving more in a direction of offering full end-to-end encryption to their customers. That's what customers want. That's the right thing to do. It also lets these big tech companies off the hook because they can correctly say to law enforcement, we can't give you the plain text. We don't have access to that. That's not the case, by the way, with iCloud right now. They do have the keys to that. And that's one of the reasons
for backups specifically. Yes, there is. I mean, like iMessage and stuff like that is end-to-end encrypted. But yeah, if you get your iCloud backups, there are loopholes for some of this information.
Yeah,
and
even Apple, WhatsApp backs up in the clear to iCloud.
Yeah. So, there are always going to be loopholes, and there are some cases where Apple has made choices about these things in order to preserve some degree of convenience, because that's always the balance, right? It's convenience versus security. Because for photos, for example, this was a big deal for a while where, yes, you could Apple would have the keys to your photo backups, but no Apple employee ever wanted to be in a position of having somebody coming to their store and be like, I lost all my photos of my children, of like my, deceased parents or whatever, right? Like they wanted the ability to say like, okay, in certain cases we can restore that. That was a case they made, but they do now offer the ability to further encrypt stuff if you want to, the advanced data protection feature that they rolled out last year. But again, they warn you a lot, like, look, you can do this, but it's really on you. If you lose access to this, it is gone.
Which is what we want. I mean, obviously, this Lex Fridman interview is an ad for the new Meta Quest 3, right? I mean, it was basic, but they could do it because there's so many cameras. See these cameras on the side that they can see your body, they can see your face, they can transmit that information. I guess and Apple's promised that as well with the Vision Pro. There's cameras everywhere on the Vision Pro.
It is interesting tech. I think it would probably have avoided the uncanny valley if they had scanned someone who looks more naturally human than Mark Zuckerberg.
What are you saying? He looks like a droid?
I mean, in real life, he looks uncanny valley. So that's not a good start.
Yeah, you can't tell if he's real or not because he doesn't look real even when he is. In fact, on these, his complexion is actually too natural, right? He's got some color. Yep. He looks like he's been.
This actually looks better than real Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. I mean, they've done Snoop Dogg, they've done Mr. Beast, they've created a bunch of characters. I can remember. I'll have to see if I can find the list of.
Well, those are the AI personalities, right? That they're launching into all of their apps. Tom Brady's one of them. I'm a Boston guy here, so. We're pretty psyched to have Tom Brady.
So what do you want to do with Tom now that you can get in a room with him?
Well, it's not officially Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady acting as like
they don't give him his name either, right?
Yeah, they call him Bra or something like that. I can't remember what they. I watched that video where Mark Zuckerberg walked around his house and introduced you to all of the different AI personalities you had. I don't know if you saw that, but it was hard to find. It's not easily accessible on YouTube.
Oh, good. I'd like to find it.
His parents come over and they start talking. They have this like virtual dinner party with one of the Jenners. I was like, if this is the future, I want out. Like I do not want to hang out with any of these personalities, even if they are AI.
Mark's surreal dinner party with AI celebrities. All right, let's. There's Tom. Let me turn the sound up here.
Maybe there's also AI, Meta AI, an assistant that can help you with all kinds of.
Oh, wait a minute! I got too many tabs open. Hold on. I got too many different things going at once. I gotta close.
That's the video, though. You got the right video.
I got the right video. Okay, let me. I saw.
Yeah, I've seen this too.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm glad you mentioned it because I kind of want to see. So where should I?
I never want to eat smoked meats again.
He's imagining smoked meats.
Hey, Mark, your parents are here.
By the way, incidentally, while I think of the Roman Empire every day, I think he thinks of smoked meats often. I don't know why.
See you too.
All right,
so here's Mark's parents.
Hi, Brew.
I feel bad. Mark's parents.
There is Brew. Yes, his name is Brew.
I feel bad because Mark's parents. I mean, did you think they had to do this? It's like, Mom, Dad, would you come over? I want to do a little ad for Brew. All right, let's see him. Let's see Tom Brady. He is in a screen, though. He's not in a headset or anything.
You too. Hi, Brew. Hi.
Yeah.
There.
Mom's already.
Come early and help with dinner.
I'm so down for dinner. Let's make something delicious.
Who's that? Is that Kendall Jenner?
Now that's
one of the Jenners. Yeah,
Jenner.
That's Kylie Jenner.
Kylie. Thank you.
Let's get this done. No slacking.
Is it a most
That's Victor. They don't have their real names.
And I want to see you sweat, especially you.
Okay, wait a minute.
Perfect as always, Jarvis.
Mark, that laughter was so bad. I got to do that again. Somebody's got to meme
upsetting.
that. Somebody's got to meme that laughter because that was creepy.
Mark, your toast is ready.
Perfect as always, Jarvis.
You got it, Mark.
All right, so watch out for these AIs to come soon.
By the way, Jarvis was Mark's personal project for an AI assistant that he only had in his house. They never released that, but apparently he's making toast for him. Oh, this is.
I'm thinking about becoming Amish. I mean, none of that looks attractive to me. Like, not even a little bit.
This is the problem, frankly, with Mark Zuckerberg is that he doesn't have his finger on the pulse of humanity, shall I say? He doesn't.
Okay, I agree, and I think that some of this, character stuff, right, where you're interacting with someone famous who's now an AI, is very weird. But I did do this story earlier this week or last week, I guess now. Where I talked to a bunch of people who are talking to these AI bots of like fantasy characters, and they're often like really young Gen Z, and I sort of get that, but why do I need Kylie Jenner in my kitchen? Like I just think that they're really thinking about the wrong context here. Like all those kids, like these were kids who were into fantasy fiction, who were into like werewolves, vampires, that kind of stuff already, and like they want to do that alone in their room,
right?
Like
they don't want to invite their parents over to make toast for them.
Right. It's just like this very odd circumstance. Yeah. I think that's the issue. And I think also you see again and again that these big tech companies lean into the celebrities and they want like a celebrity endorsement. Whereas I actually think their user base is like, we want this weird anime that you've never heard of. You know what I mean? Or we don't actually want the celebrity endorsement. I think again and again for like these kinds of bleeding edge products, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Let me just play Mark's laugh one more.
Please.
It's so.
If you watch the beginning of it, Leo, it's gonna burn your eyes too because he's waking up from his bed.
Boom! What? Let's get this done. No slacking.
If it involves dancing, I'm your girl.
And I want to see you sweat, especially you.
Oh God! Oh! All right, I want to see Mark wake up. Let's.
Yeah, it's. I've warned you.
Okay, Mark Zuckerberg. This is how he begins his day.
Morning, Mark. Room temperature is set to a cool 68 degrees.
Loving your new voice.
Thank you.
A while back, I introduced my first AI, Jarvis, to help around the house.
Apparently, Mark sleeps in his tidy whities.
Jarvis is great, but what if you could have an AI that could help you with everything that you wanted to do? So
I noticed.
To work with the team building a whole.
Priscilla is nowhere to be found. She said, "Mark, if you do this, you're doing it on your own, buddy."
Now, is this the real bedroom, or is this a set somewhere where they're trying to pretend that
maybe this is his bedroom in Mountain View?
AIs
at the office.
Is that the guest room? Maybe that's the guest room.
Played by familiar people.
Fire in the hole!
Let's go! This is Brew, our trash-talking sports expert. Hey, Brew, what do you know about epic comebacks? Kids, seriously. 1975 World Series.
Now remember.
Okay. All right. As someone who's lived in Boston for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady is not from
He's not from Boston. He's from here. He's from San Mateo, California.
San Mateo. Yeah. So for him to use the line kid, which is what everybody in Boston does in their Boston accent, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's just cringe for me in terms of trying to have Tom Brady's never said kid to anybody unless it's in a script.
But imagine this. Okay, obviously this is horrible. But what if your Amazon, I mean really horrible. What if your Amazon Echo or your Google Assistant, if you asked it a sports question, answered in Tom Brady's voice? Obviously it's AI created content, right? So part of the problem is that the current voices on these devices aren't great, but also the content they're delivering isn't great. But they're talking about it. Apple, Amazon, Google are all talking about putting these LLMs behind these voices at some point. So now you've got an LLM giving you sports information, and it's doing it in recognizable. I don't want Tom Brady, but it's doing it in a recognizable. Maybe, you know what? John Madden. If it were John Madden's voice, that'd be cool, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
well, you would have to get John Madden's.
It's too late now. You're right. It's too late
to agree to it. Yeah.
Well, but there's enough video of him that obviously Tom Brady agreed to it. How much did Meta pay Tom Brady or Mr. Beast to do this, or Kylie Jenner to do this? They must have paid them millions, right?
You would think. Yeah, you would think that they would have
classic stuff
given them
right
some
there.
money.
Thanks for the tip, Brew.
I don't want to call him
There's
Brew.
also
I'm
Meta
sorry.
AI,
That's really
an assistant
awful.
that can help.
That's really awful.
I mean, I didn't pay for any of the celebrity voices for my GPS.
Oh, I did.
When we
I did for TomTom. I did. I had. Oh, my favorite.
Who's telling you where to go, Leo?
Dennis Hopper, and it was so funny because he would say, "You've arrived, but why would anyone want to go here, man?" It was awesome. And then GLaDOS from the Portal games, you could get her voice on TomTom, and she would tell you the wrong. She, instead of saying turn left, she'd say turn right. So that was interesting. Wasn't useful.
We had Cortana,
which was
that was
a voice
terrible.
that millions of gamers around the world love.
That's right.
And no one used Cortana.
Yeah. So Mike Elgan has been going around Oaxaca, wearing his Meta glasses. Did you? Did any? So show me. Do you have them with you? These are the new Ray-Ban, the second editions.
Yeah.
Oh, they look just like regular spectacles. Is there a light that's on when you're recording?
Yes, there's a light that that goes on. I can demo these. Hang on, let me switch glasses here. So nobody could tell anything when I was doing this. So I basically say, "Hey Meta, take a picture," and then
it did. I heard a little sound.
And if I
saw the light,
press and hold this little button, it pulses when you're doing a video.
Yeah,
and you can preset it to be a 15-second, 30 or 60-second video, and then it stops by itself, or it stops if you push the button. But the surprising thing is that it's got a voice assistant like Siri. It's really good. I mean, really, really good.
Is it called Jarvis?
No, it's
Mark Zuckerberg's personal assistant.
Exactly.
May I show? Oh, he's talking to you. Sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt. May I show the video? I think it's on your Facebook, actually. It's not on your Insta.
Sure, absolutely. Please do.
Okay.
I have a gazillion pictures. I was there for a Day of the Dead and just walking around, taking pictures of the street scene and all that. It was really great.
Let me see if I can find it.
But yeah,
we were there really 2 years ago with you guys for the Day of the Dead. It was incredible. What an experience.
Visually, it's really something.
And it was nice because you let me keep my smartphone. I was really, really
right.
pleased.
I wanted to ban all electronics, but
no,
it's but these are, so just to put it in perspective, Google Glass, which I was a glass hole back in the day, 10 years ago or something, cost $1,500. And these cost $300, and the camera is vastly superior.
It's a decent looking camera. This is Amira, your wife, walking downtown. I recognize the street in Oaxaca.
That's really good.
And it's Day of the Dead,
It's
so everybody's
portrait
made
mode.
up. Yeah,
optimized for Instagram, and you can live stream to Facebook and Instagram. Which is really interesting.
That's really cool.
It's a little bobbly, like you're walking around. I can see it's got some stabilization, but it's not like it's a. I mean, it's a little wobbly.
I mean, these are coming from his sunglasses, though.
No, I understand, but
I get you. Yeah,
it's a first-person experience.
Totally.
Yeah, and I did. I didn't post the pictures yet, but I made pizza before we went to Oaxaca, and I was just like tossing the dough and like had it. I was timing it so that it would take a picture of the dough in midair when I was like spinning it and all that stuff, and that kind of thing is pretty cool because, of course, you can't use your hands.
This is horrible. There's a child.
Yeah. Well, that's Day of the Dead for you. There's children lay in the street acting like they're dead.
It's kind of but I like the Day of the Dead because it is this kind of embrace your morbidity thing.
Right.
And unlike Halloween, it's like right in your face. It's not like, oh, spooky. No, it's like you're going to die. And let's
I'll take
honor
these
the
off
people
in a
who
second,
have.
but
Let me see some more. You look cool in them. Well, you don't look uncool.
No, I mean, they look just like Ray-Bans.
Yeah, exactly. But I was surprised by the quality of the assistant. I was asking it, how do you say stuff in Spanish? And it was just telling me immediately.
And you could use that immediately?
It was really, really great. And
should I buy some of these? $329.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. You should buy them.
No.
Lenses.
Okay, here's my counter argument.
Yeah.
A normal pair.
Hold my hand.
Okay. A normal pair of Wayfarers.
Tell me why.
A normal pair of Wayfarers is like $198. Yes. So you're talking about $100 more.
That's not so bad.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're telling me to buy them?
I am. I'm going to buy them.
Shoshana, help me.
I know. I'm going to get a Garmin smartwatch just so I can see my altitude when I'm hiking. But beyond that, I'm trying not to become a full robot, like just yet.
Fair.
Wouldn't you like to wear these, though, on your next hike? You take amazing pictures of these beautiful venues you're hiking in and...
Oh, thank you. No, I hate wearing, I actually can't wear glasses or gloves very easily. I hate they get in the way of me doing stuff.
Fair.
I'm the only person on earth who has this problem, but I feel like a moron and I like trip over myself. So, but the fun thing is I have Raynaud's, which means my hands and feet go cold really fast. So I avoid wearing gloves until like they will not unfreeze. Then I'm like, fine, all right, I'll do it. So
maybe Meta will make some smart gloves for you and then you can... you can benefit.
Yeah. Here's the thing that people don't talk about with the glasses. Everybody talks about the camera, but it's really about the audio. The audio quality on the Ray-Ban Metas is very, very high. And the microphone quality, there are 5 microphones in it, is very, very good. But you can't wear AirPods all day.
Right.
You can have something in your ear all day, but you can wear glasses all day. And so
what's the battery life though? You can't listen all day. Can you?
If you're actively using it and using the camera and streaming and all that stuff, I think it's like 4 hours. It has a case that has a battery inside. So the case has a battery life of 24 hours, something like that.
So you have the Wayfarers, which are the kind of the classic Jack Nicholson Ray-Ban style.
Exactly. And I have worn them at night, and I did look like Jack Nicholson.
Now, do you have the ones with the transition lenses, or do you have just like the regular polarized ones?
I polarized. I made the mistake of not getting those, and I probably am going to get a second pair that is clear.
And prescription is available, right? You can send them your prescription. Yes. Which is probably what I would do, because I do wear glasses. I mean, I could wear them over my contacts, but I think I'd probably want to wear them as eyeglasses.
Yeah, but the power of just walking around and having audio ready to go, where you can just use the assistant, or you can hear your notifications, or you can have a phone conversation, and the audio quality is excellent, and have nothing in your ears. It's really kind of freedom. It feels liberating to have nothing in your ears and still have good quality audio available. So I really like them.
No, I mean, that was the thing for me too. So I think I'm going to buy these. I think I'm going to get the transition lenses though, which are more expensive.
Oh my God, I thought you...
No, you thought I was
holding my hand to talk me out of it.
No, not at all, because the audio thing you pointed out. So I almost bought the Bose sunglasses with the audio thing. I almost bought those a few times. Those were, again, not much less expensive. I didn't think they looked as good and didn't have the camera thing. So I don't know, for me, even if I only use the camera occasionally, the fact that it's a pair of Wayfarers, of which I have many, and audio. Does
it give you pause that Apple very much wants to be in this space and will probably do something with both AirPods and the Vision Pro next year?
I mean, by the time that happens, I've already bought the sunglasses, Leo.
She's actually ordering them right now.
I am actually ordering them right now. Because again, but you don't understand. I buy a lot of Ray-Bans. I usually lose them. No, I wasn't going to talk you out of it. I was going to say, I think it's actually, weirdly, I think that this is one of the, as I agree with Shoshana, I don't want to be a robot, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know what, I kind of
Does it give anybody pause that this is meta?
Yes, but at the same time, they have my information anyway.
I just recently rejoined Facebook, which I only did because I thought, well, it was when the war broke out in Israel, and I thought, well, I want to see what's going on with disinformation. I know it's a real problem. We got an election coming up. It's probably appropriate for me to be there. It is so far worse than anything I could remember. For one thing, my newsfeed is filled up with stuff that I didn't follow or subscribe, or even, I don't know these people.
Right.
And it's mostly women in bikinis, which I don't understand why they're doing this to me.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm so sorry this is happening to you.
Well, somebody said, you can stop that but you have to one by one block each account. And somehow, I mean, there's hundreds of these. Anyway, but I am back on Facebook, so I could use this, right?
I recently rejoined Facebook as well, and I found it so bizarre.
It's so awful.
That I would basically go to follow somebody who was like my best friend in grade school, and it said, you don't really know that person. And then it's always dangling this eye candy in front of me.
Constant eye candy.
And it's like, and it lets me follow those. So it's like, it feels like,
it's a straight ad feed. So so I went past the one post I got from somebody I know to Elvis's old airplane being reconditioned to how to, what? Oh, you know what? This is because I rejected all the bikini girls. So now they're going, oh, man, maybe you're interested in woodworking. How would you like to fix your cabinets? There's somebody I know, NFL. They figure, well, if you're not interested in bikinis, here's some Marissa Tomei scanty. Oh, they're back. You can't get away from them.
Man, that one was really aggressive.
Look, I'm not a prude by any means, but I'm offended that this is like what they put in my feed. Like, this is terrible. Look at this, babes in bikinis and ladies in lingerie. You know what? I don't want to snooze it. I want to hide it. But now, I guess I should report it, but obviously nobody's reporting these things, right?
Well, Twitter is kind of the same right now. Like people will randomly like your post, and it's, it's bots, and it's all this, it's like
it's bots.
10 Hannahs.
But how do they know me? How do they, I thought I was private on Facebook. No.
Yeah, on Facebook it's weirder.
is so creepy. It's really creepy.
It's one of the, actually it's one of the great things about the Meta glasses. It doesn't have a screen. There's no algorithmic element to it at all. And you can do a lot of information gathering just through voice without ever looking at a screen. So it's kind of for small things, everyday things like, who was that actress in that movie that I don't remember her name?
You can, for that sort of thing. What I use Google or Echo for, right? It's the same kind of thing, except it's always on. But you know what? We can use our AirPods to do that.
Yeah.
Do you ever go, hey, Shlomo, who was that actress?
I think if Shlomo worked better, I would.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem.
That is because genuinely, we are very close to actually having, like the Star Trek communicator, like translator thing working. Yep. And the AI stuff is there. It's just not in our smart devices yet.
Well, Meta said that next year they're going to add a feature to the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, Ray-Ban Meta glasses, where it will process visual information through AI. So you'll be looking at something and say, "What is this?" And it will tell you, or
like Google Lens. But always,
exactly. Like give me instructions for how to operate this machine, and it'll.
So this
tell you.
I noticed you're not wearing them full time. Would you make these your regular glasses?
Totally, totally. The problem is they're sunglasses. And
so I'm going to get the clear transitions with my prescription.
Yeah.
And
I should have gotten the transition
I can look like
ones.
Clark Kent all the time.
I love it.
Exactly. And then you whip them off and then you have your Superman outfit and people would not recognize
Do they have
you
other
at all.
styles?
Yeah, they do. They have different colors, different styles.
Yeah.
One thing I like about this, they've got a line of them where they're semi-transparent, like the original, like those old iMacs, like the Raspberry iMacs and stuff. So these are pretty cool, I think, where you can kind of see through them. They also have opaque
So you say the mistake you made was not buying clear ones so you could wear them all the time.
Right. Well, or transition lenses. So
they'd be sunglasses.
Both. Yeah,
So
but I'm actually thinking about
yeah.
getting clear ones and wearing them both. I have no reason to not wear them all the time. They're comfortable. I don't know. They're glasses.
Okay, so I want to try these on. You must allow access to your camera. Okay, so I'm going to try these on.
Oh yeah, see, there you go.
These are the headliners.
Not bad.
I look like Estelle.
There's the Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
That's not Jack Nicholson. That's Larry Bud Melman.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Dave. I don't want to give it. You already ordered them, or haven't you?
I haven't yet. I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to if I'm going to pick them up at a store in San Francisco.
I do like this try-on feature, though. I have to say.
Yeah.
Can you just keep this running for the rest of the show?
Yeah, let's do the whole show like this.
Yeah.
Do they have heart-shaped?
This is the right stuff, 1960s.
Heart-shaped? Do they have heart-shaped?
No. The closest they have are these Estelle Parsons in teal blue. Let's see if I can get
These are fun.
Yeah. Should I get these, Shoshana?
No, I think, do they have a square one? You need a square frame.
I know, my head's so round. I should have something
mine
that
is too,
counters
so I
it.
feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's face it, you're wearing glasses that are feeding everything you're seeing back to Meta. Do you worry about privacy? I guess it wouldn't, because that'd kill the battery and the bandwidth. Is it connected? It's connected to your phone.
Yeah, it is connected to the phone. And I was actually surprised. I asked it last night. I was walking around Mexico City and I wasn't sure what neighborhood I was in. And I asked the assistant what neighborhood I'm in. I'm sorry, we don't have access to your location information. I'm like, you're kidding. I actually wanted it to have location information on me. I don't know.
This is how they get you.
That's how they get you. So
it's funny. I've been thinking about utility because I'm insane and obsessed with hiking, but I've been thinking about hiking utility and every year I refresh my memory on am I looking at a grizzly? Am I looking at a black bear? AI glasses could be the hump on the back. We can analyze this bear in front of you. It's not going to eat you and stuff like that.
Hey, Meta, should I run or freeze?
Yeah. Should I run and play dead? What's going on here?
I am proud to say after watching that, I had my finger that whole segment hovered over the buy button. I did not buy, and I still do not own those Meta glasses. Although they just added this week a new feature that you can take a picture of something and it will do AI on it and tell you, they gave an example, which tea is caffeinated. Maybe I will buy those glasses. After all, Shoshana Weissman of R Street, Christina Warren from Microsoft, talked me down. No thanks to you, Mike Elgan. Well, I don't know how you feel about subscriptions. We were talking about those subscriptions earlier that just never quit. There is one subscription I would kind of strongly like you to consider, and that is a subscription to our own Club TWiT. This has been a tough year. We've had to do layoffs. We've had to cancel shows. I don't want to do that anymore. I want TWiT to continue into 2024 and into 2025. But frankly, like a lot of podcasts, we're suffering. There have been numbers of podcasts have gone out of business this year, podcast networks too. I don't think that's going to happen to us because we have you. We have a great community. And here's how you can help. Join Club TWiT. $7 a month, which is, I think, really affordable. And you get good benefits, you ad-free shows. Somebody said, but I want the ads. You can listen to shows with ads, but you have a choice now. That's the difference. If you like the ads, listen, by all means. You also get special content we don't put out anywhere else, including Scott Wilkinson's Home Theater Geeks, Hands on Mac, and we even have fun events like this. That was the Escape Box that we did. But I think the best benefit to me is the great community at TWiT. You get to participate in our Club TWiT Discord with other club members talking about the things geeks care most about. That's a lot for $7 a month. And the best part, it helps keep TWiT on the air. If you like what we do and you want to keep listening, can I beg you, please join Club TWiT? It really makes a big difference. It makes a difference, frankly, between there being a TWiT in 2025 or not. twit.tv/club TWiT, and thank you so much in advance for your contribution. All right, well, it's been a great year. We've had so many great people on. This has just scratched the surface. Every Sunday between 2 and 5 p.m. Pacific time, TWiT is on the air with great content. We talk about the week's tech news. It is our flagship show, and is one I want to keep doing into 2030s and beyond. So I hope the only way we can do it is if you come back. So please, we'll be back doing TWiT a week from now. What is that? January 6th? 7th. January 7th will be the next TWiT. Be live, fresh, all new. Meanwhile, I know it's New Year's Eve. I hope you have a great New Year's Eve planned. We thank you for sharing it with us. And I want to wish you a very peaceful, prosperous, and happy 2024. On behalf of all of us at This Week in Tech, have a great new year. Bye-bye.
This is amazing.